As you can see, this is a PlayStation Black Disc. Cut number 1 contains computer data, so please don't play it. But you probably won't listen to me anyway, will you?
So it's not just in corner.
Man, is there
Oh.
is there anything cooler than that hidden Castlevania track?
In Castlevania track? In which game?
In Symphony of the Night.
Oh, is that the music you were playing before I had it?
Okay,
is that the one from the CD?
Yeah, that's the
Like when
one
you play
that
the
happens
CD?
when you
Yeah.
when you pop the CD, the game disc into any just like CD drive, and then Alucard is just like, this is a PlayStation disc. Don't play this. And it just plays this goddamn kicking beat. Just like this absolute banger of a track that has
that
like
doesn't surprise me.
that has like nothing to do with the game at all. They just said like, screw it. It'd be really fun if we did that.
Castlevania music is pretty much always top quality.
I kind of missed that too. I feel like a lot of people overstate like the whole like, oh man, did you know? Oh cool, we got a donation. Thanks, Jack.
That was quick. The
Thanks
chat.
for
I haven't actually got. I need to get the chat back up.
thanks for
Thank you,
the
Jack Knuckles Bridge.
hell yeah. Also, the stream was playing on my phone for some reason, so I could
Just
hear my
like hearing
voice.
yourself.
Yeah, I could hear my voice in my pocket. I was like, what the hell was that? I feel like that was very understated in the PlayStation era, was the ability to put like the game disc into a CD player and listen to the soundtrack. Because too many developers caught on to that and just kind of like buried the music files into the game.
The
Yeah.
the visualization effects were also super fun. And I wish that was more of a thing now. I wish I could just listen to music and watch crazy visualization. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of like software and players to do that, but most music we listen to now is from streaming, and they never offer fun visualization.
They usually just put the album cover and nothing else.
Yeah,
I
which
have-
is a lot dumber. I'll
I
say
have
that.
I have a big old complaint about video game soundtracks and audio and all that crap. And the main reason for that is because I feel like man, so sort of jumping into things. Also Matt's here.
Yeah. Hi.
Hey, you got to
I didn't want to interrupt you.
Matt, what is your opinion on the Alucard hidden PlayStation track?
This is the PlayStation
There
disc.
you go. Man, Konami should have done that with all their games. Like, could you imagine if they did like a Silent Hill one?
Man, Konami had a
It's a
lot
bit-
of fun in the PS1 era.
Yeah,
Yeah.
really. But no. So I've been reviewing a little piece of hardware for the channel recently, a DAC, a digital audio converter. And what it's supposed to do is it's this little dongle you can plug into the Switch either through a USB port on the console or the USB-C port on the bottom of the Switch. And the idea is that the audio chip that's used in most portable electronics is not very good for listening to audio. Like, it's fine, it's passable, and that's because most people listen to. But it's incredible how, you know, we always want like bigger resolutions and like better texture resolution and like and all this stuff, but usually people listen to game audio either through like their crappy TV speakers or like AirPods. Like we do not treat game audio with the same level of respect we do like visual fidelity.
Mhm.
And that leads to like most games being mixed either really poorly or all of the game audio being like downsampled and super compressed to the point where it sounds kind of bad if you listen to like really good headphones, or if you pay $60 to buy a DAC that plugs into your Switch that's supposed to make audio better, but if the samples themselves are not very good, it doesn't really improve things. It just makes these really low quality audio samples sound clearer, but not by much.
Okay, so on a related note, I just started playing Shin Megami Tensei Nocturne,
Mm-hmm.
and all of the battle tracks for that game that are composed by Shoji Meguro are they sound like they're being played by a speaker underneath a dump truck.
Yeah, that's
It's so compressed. It's so bad.
See, I remember at the beginning of the generation, everyone was like, "Falls 50 gigs? It's using uncompressed FLAC files for its audio? Why? That's stupid." And now I'm just like, I play, you know, like any modern game. I think Doom Eternal is a really good example because everything is like a compressed OGG file in Doom Eternal. So like the final mix like sounds fine, but you're like, oh, if people didn't care about the game being like 80 gigs instead of 40 gigs, like this game would sound a lot better. That's why I'm kind of looking forward to the 3D audio stuff on the PS5. I'm hoping that leads to more games actually caring about their audio mixing and the quality of the audio itself.
Audio mixing is such a big thing that a lot of video
Yeah.
games need to improve on.
I'm
I'm
a
playing a lot of
composer
Xenoblade
myself.
Chronicles at the moment, and the audio mixing in some scenes is a bit naff.
Oh, yeah. I notice a lot. It's the case with a lot of like English dub things where the audio mixing is just not quite right.
Yeah.
That's especially the case if you play like any version of Sonic Adventure 2 that's not on the Dreamcast. Oh, it's so
I mean,
bad.
that one's funny. I find the Sonic
It's-
one's
it's-
funny.
Oh, it's
Well,
really
I mean,
funny. It's just really
Your
bad.
first mistake was playing Sonic Adventure 2. So
No. Listen,
For you.
Sonic Adventure 2 has Big the Cat in it. You can find him in levels. It's worth playing just for that.
I can't argue with the fact that Big the Cats is in fact in Sonic Adventure 2. That is a true fact. Also, we already have a thumbs down, which I assume is because you said Sonic Adventure 2. I don't know when we got it.
You just triggered it.
I mean, that was probably because we started the stream and we weren't immediately like, "All right, fellas, is cooking mama and Smash?" You know.
Which is how we should start it. I think we should just make a sound clip. That should be like our official intro.
just
It's
add a
like-
bunch of like reverb to it, and it's just like.
Every week it's a new character, but we're too lazy to actually record a new file, so we just dub it in with Microsoft Sam.
Then we never actually talk about that character.
Yeah.
But I guess
At
that's a good segue into what we've been playing this week, because I've been playing a lot of ports. Specifically, I've been playing the Bioshock Switch ports, which I was actually really looking forward to because I like Bioshock 1 and 2. And I think they made a third one, I'm not sure. But
I heard the DLC for 2 is pretty good.
oh, the DLC for 2 is it's so good. Minerva's Den is so good. But like the last time I played BioShock, I was in high school, and the thing is that you can't be a high schooler or younger and play BioShock because you will not get it. You'll just be like, "Why can't I shoot the gun better?" Like what? Why are they politics? I don't get. Like you won't like you have to be fair. You have to have a pretty high IQ to understand BioShock. But no, like
Yeah, it's the Rick and Morty of
yeah. But no, it's
first-person
like
shooters.
it's like if you are like young, dumb, and full of camaraderie, like you will not like understand the nuances of why BioShock is like
there's
pure
a
Kino.
lot of subtext. The narrative
Yeah.
is honestly the first BioShock in particular is
Oh yeah.
carried almost entirely by narrative, atmosphere, and kind of the fact that I feel like there weren't too many first-person shooters at the time that allowed you to customize other abilities. Like I remember when it first came out, I thought that was cool. I was in college when the first BioShock came out, and that was BioShock was one of the reasons I bought an Xbox 360.
Yeah.
A lot of people don't realize this, but the Xbox 360 kicked the shit out of the PS3 for 3/4 of that console generation.
Oh, totally.
And then they just stopped caring, and PS3 managed to catch up. But
Didn't
a lot
the
of that was,
BioShock port come out like right before BioShock 2 did? Like it came out years.
Yes.
Yeah.
that's the thing. Is
Wacky.
It was an exclusive to 360 for a whole year.
Yeah.
Initially there were a lot of games that were just associated with 360. Mass Effect.
Mass Effect was Xbox exclusive.
BioShock was Xbox exclusive. Dead
Nobody
Rising.
in their right mind would play Bayonetta on the PS3.
Yeah, Dead Rising was Xbox 360, and these were like big games. They were reasons.
GTA
Like, it
4. GTA 4
Yeah.
was Xbox exclusive for like a year and a half.
Yeah, the Xbox was, and then their actual exclusives were pretty good. I thought Ninja Gaiden 2 was really good. That was an exclusive as well for a while.
I
The
mean,
new
PS3
Fable games
version-
didn't suck.
The PS3 version of Ninja Gaiden 2 is so lame.
I mean, not to go on a side tangent, but like I've always considered like the 360 to be like the dominant console of that generation, regardless. Because even though Microsoft really fell off with exclusives when they started doing the Kinect bullshit, every game ran better, like way better than their PS3 counterpart. Like go from playing like Call of Duty and it's like a buttery smooth 60 FPS on 360. You go to PS3 and it's like the resolution's lower and it barely runs as good. And it's very
It was it was a really weird console generation. Like it's really bizarre if you look at it, especially because I mean, I used to follow sales numbers a lot back then because it was fun.
Yeah.
And PS3 was doing so badly, and the Wii was such a phenomenon that there was a thread on the VG Charts forums, Video Game Connect,
Yeah.
that was just tracking what will sell more, the Wii balance board or the PS3. And for a very long time, it was the balance board. But what happened is that was such like no, like seriously, it's hilarious. It was that generation was so protracted and so long that I honestly think that people towards the end of that generation wanted something new, and a lot of people just bought a PS3 because there was just nothing else to do. And at that time, like, oh hey, now there's finally a great list of exclusives.
There's like I feel like that generation is a really good example of it going on for so long that all the consoles became really cheap, and it was completely totally like even if you don't have a lot of money, like you could buy all three platforms because like by the end of the generation, I mean you could buy a brand new one for like you could buy a brand new 360 PS3 or Wii for like less than the cost of a 3DS. Like they cost nothing by the end, especially if you wanted to buy a used console.
So I was going to say I bought my PS3 in 2011 or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I bought it really late into the life cycle because it was pretty cheap.
But anyway, Bioshock.
Games.
Bioshock is it's like video game kino. Like it's so good. I've been playing the Switch version, which is a fantastic port. A fantastic port. You know, it's oh my god, they put FOV options on a console. Thank you so much. The FOV in Bioshock was always really bad. And goddamn, that game, like, shooters on controllers are usually, like, pretty bad, but, it feels really good. Like, the way all the controls are laid out in this game are, like, fantastic. Oh, man. And, yeah, the game is just generally good. The port's fantastic. The audio is crunchy, but, I mean, that's, you know, everyone wants these Switch games to be compressed, so that's what you get. You know, if you want them to be 10 gigs less than the PS4 version, you gotta sacrifice something, and audio usually has to go. So,
that kind of sucks because, once again, Bioshock is so much about the atmosphere, and
yeah.
you hear the splicers, and you hear something dropping, and you hear this, and you hear that.
I don't think it's too bad, though. It's not Dark Souls bad, where they just straight up put, like... I don't know if anyone here has played Dark Souls on Switch. The audio in that game's PP. But yeah, that one is good. I played a little bit of Bioshock 2, and it's like, you know, it runs as good as Bioshock 1 as one would expect. These are the remastered editions, by the way, so they do, even though like resolution and frame rate wise, they're like the same as the 360 original, though docked it's like 1080p. It looks exponentially better. Like there's proper AA and you know, the textures don't look like play. I wouldn't know about that stinky third game they made because I did the thing where you could buy all the games separate on the eShop. So that's what I did. I just bought Bioshock 1 and 2. I'm not buying Infinite. I know that game sucks already. I don't need to play it again.
I don't dislike Infinite as much as you do. I do think that game kind of took a dive. About a quarter of the way through, though.
Oh, yeah, and then it just like it never recovers, and the DLC is even worse. I have no intention of. I tried playing it again on PC. I tried playing it again on PC a few years ago, and it didn't go well. So I just said like I'll just wait for a sale for Infinite.
And I never played through part 2. I really need to do that one of these days.
2's fine. I think the only problem with 2, there's two issues with 2. One is that it's less politically charged than the first one.
Yeah.
there's not as much of a like they clearly wanted to. They clearly wanted to do this whole thing about like
Well, it's a different team,
augmentations.
right?
By a different studio as well, isn't it?
Yeah, it was by
Yeah.
a different. Also, $5 from Rayo, who I didn't realize was a super popular Smash YouTuber until someone brought it up in the Discord. I always thought he was just some
Morning.
guy.
And Rayo, how's it going? Hope everything's doing well this morning for you.
But yeah, the only problem with 2 is that they wanted to make it more politically charged. It's way less politically charged than the first one, so the story kind of suffers because of it. And there's way too many goddamn escort missions. There's too many points in that game where a little sister is like stabbing a corpse with a needle, and you have to protect it like it's a slow elevator in Half-Life from all these splicers running at you. Alternatively, Minerva's Den does it way better, which is included if you have the remastered. The only thing that's not in the remastered is Bioshock 2's multiplayer.
No.
Here's the thing. I like Bioshock 2's multiplayer, but let's be real for a minute. Whenever a game gets a remastered edition, no one plays the multiplayer. It always dies immediately. That's like removing it is a mercy killing, essentially.
You know, except for the Halo, all the Halo.
Well, of
releases
course,
and stuff,
Halo.
because it's Halo. That's the
Yeah.
whole point. I mean, I know I'm. That's it's the exception that proves the rule. I'm just saying.
I feel
He's
like
still sad for you.
I kind of wish. This is why I think more games need to start doing cross-platform play, because like remastered editions could really benefit.
Oh no, we got another thumbs down, which I assume is for you saying that Infinite sucks. Sorry.
Tears. Hey, isn't it kind of fucking weird how the middle of that game? Okay, so you start the first third of Infinite like genociding these racists, right? And then in the middle third of the game, you help this this group of like oppressed minorities who have been enslaved by this group of racists, and it's like this big cool revolution thing. And then there's this weird plot twist where they turn you into a martyr, and then because you're not, because you're supposed to be dead, but you're actually alive, this group of oppressed people start going, "Oh, kill him," and then you have to genocide all of these oppressed like it's a little fucky if you really think about it. The plot of Bioshock Infinite is
But
not
then
good.
you're the bad guy.
Yeah, you're the
it's
bad guy the whole time.
it's
Oh my
so-
god, it's
not
just like
you.
Last of Us. Best game ever. I don't... Come on, just give me more Last of Us hate. Just
that-
You
pour
just
it
want
on.
that third
pour
dislike,
it on.
don't
Yeah,
you?
give me a dislike.
Bioshock Infinite is like Lindbergh cheese. It just doesn't. It's just foot taste.
I
Just
need to.
foot taste.
I need to play. I need to play through it to see to get. I think a more current.
Bioshock Infinite's
I barely remember
a
it.
weird one. Like I
And then
played,
it
I played
ruins
Bioshock
Bioshock
Infinite
1.
back when
It's
it
so
came
cool.
out. I played it when it first came out, Bioshock Infinite. I really, really liked it, and then it's one of those things where I've looked back at the various moments from it and sort of realized, actually, you know what? It probably wasn't that good. It probably didn't need to be a first-person shooter.
I just
points out all the
I just remember
flaws.
I just remember buying it, installing it on my PC, playing through like the first few hours, and being like, "This game's a fucking masterpiece. Oh my god! Like this is beautiful." And then I don't know, like 10 hours later, I'm fighting a ghost mom,
That's the worst part of that game.
and I was just like, "What is happening? What am I doing? Why does this not play good?" Also, thank you for the $5, Rivers. How's it going?
Thank you,
Pretty
Rivers.
aight. We're just complaining about games from 10 years ago.
Thanks, Rivers.
Yeah. As we do.
Yeah. Next week we might complain about games from 20 years ago. I'm really looking forward to that one.
Next week we'll
That's when
complain
you
about
shine.
next
Yeah.
week we'll complain about games 10 years into the future. We'll talk about
Ooh.
Bioshock 4.
Talk about all those PS5 games that are going to be revealed.
But no, holy shit, if you have a Nintendo Switch and you've never played Bioshock before, like do it. Go.
I
I
have not played the Borderlands games. Do you know the quality of those
I've
ports?
heard. I've actually heard all the XCOM, all the 2K ports are really good. I've heard Bioshock and Borderlands and XCOM are all phenomenal. The only thing I've seen about XCOM is that the cutscenes run bad, but it's an XCOM console port that happens on every single one of them for the last 2 decades. That has been the situation, but the actual like in game itself runs perfectly fine. So yeah, like apparently they're all good.
Because
I
that's
think the issue I've
speaking
got
of things
about
I
all of
played
them
on.
is don't get it physical, because the physical version isn't actually like. Is it actually a cartridge, or is it just the download code in a box?
Okay, so it's very weird. If you buy Bioshock, it comes with the first act of all 3 games on the cartridge, and then you have to download the rest. However,
yeah.
it's not like Spyro or Crash, where all 3 games are part of one executable. It's 3 different executables. So
Okay,
for
you're
each
right.
game, so you can pick and choose which one you want to install. So the whole thing about like how you have to install like 30 extra gigs of data is not necessarily true, because if you don't want to install all 3 games at the same time, you don't have to. You can just install
yeah.
one at a time, and it's like 10 gigs.
I've seen a few collections do that. The La Mulana collection did that, where
Yeah,
they're
Metro
technically
does that.
separate games. Guilty Gear one as well did that.
Yeah, the only weird thing is that, and then XCOM, of course, is just, a game you just have to download a bunch of extra data for. But Borderlands is weird because it comes with a cartridge that's just Borderlands 1. And then it comes with a code for the Handsome Jack collection, which I assume is because the Handsome Jack collection is 2 games. It's 2 in pre-sequel, so it's massive.
Yeah, they're doing it Capcom style.
Yeah. It's that one's a little weird. But they're all these games are listed individually on the eShop if you just want to buy like one game. So
yeah, Cody Cody. So Cody said that Borderlands games are still fun, but probably only worth it if you have people to do multiplayer with. I kind of disagree on that. First of all, I adore the first 2 Borderlands games. I also like the pre-sequel, but I think 1 and 2 for different reasons are really good. I think 1 you have just more variety with not more variety, but I feel like the guns are more important, and in 2 all of your abilities are more important. But the thing is with both of them, and why I've wanted them on Switch for a very long time, is because they're very kind of grindy, quest-driven games, and I think those sort of games are really fun on portables. Because you can just kind of start playing them whenever, do a little mission, do this, do that, put it down, and then if you're just stuck doing whatever, you're on a plane or you're on a bus, you can just go and level up or kill things. Like it's really good, kind of mindless, repetitive fun. Like, you know what I mean? It's that sort of game, and I feel like those games are really good for portables. So I would suggest it even for really anyone.
That's why they tried putting Borderlands 2 on the Vita in like the worst way possible.
Yeah, I know. Now, and that's the thing. Now we finally have a great portable version, and I've been saying really since we started getting, probably since Doom came over to the Switch, that I'm all like, oh, this can handle Doom. This could crush those Borderlands games. I've been saying that it should be ported over, so I should probably buy it to put my money where my mouth is. But I already own those games like 2 or 3 times.
They also have split screen, so if you're stuck indoors
that's awesome.
with a gamer, you can just play on the same screen. I believe it's 2-player split screen across all the games.
I mean, more than that would be a bit much.
Yeah, I mean it's a tablet. I don't expect it.
Yeah.
Speaking of games ported to a tablet, and Vita quality, I also played the recently released port of The Outer Worlds.
Oh yeah.
I can't believe I waited 8 months or whatever it took for that to come out.
I was kind of waiting for
you win some, you lose some.
Yeah, I was kind of waiting for the Switch version, but I might just apparently the PS4 version is on sale on PSN right now. Maybe I'll just go grab that because you know what? doesn't run like garbage.
I don't get it. It's like, I mean, I kind of get it because it's UE4 and Unreal Engine 4 games and the Switch are very weird. They have a very odd, abusive relationship where they could either be really good or just like the worst ports on the console. Um, and it's done by Virtuous too. Those guys got like LA Noire running on the Switch perfectly. Like, how can they not get a UE4 game running fine?
Well, LA Noire is also a PS3 360 game.
Yeah, but it's CPU intensive. It's the Rage engine. Have you tried playing a Rage engine game on PC? They're not good.
That's fair.
Yeah, like that like LA Noire is like a real like wow, that's nutty. But I don't know.
Wasn't the PC port just really bad though?
Of LA Noire?
Yeah.
Well,
I remember it
of
being
all
bad.
those Rockstar games from that generation, I think with the exception of GTA 5, they're all really bad. GTA 4
Yeah.
is like awful. But yeah, it's very weird because it just like so I streamed a bit of it. I streamed a few hours of it after having a couple drinks. And yeah, I mean, like, you're shocked at first about how bad it looks, which is like I mean, I don't really care about how these Switch ports look. I mean, like, usually I don't really care how games look graphically. It's just, you know, as long as it's not like unbearably bad. Like, I think as I said in that stream, like, the only game I've ever had a problem where I was like, ew, these graphics was like Xenoblade 2 in handheld mode, because that's like actually abhorrent.
Smearing Vaseline
Yeah,
over your
it's
eyes.
just it's so gross. Um, but but man, like it's like they're using some really low resolution textures on this. But it's funny because if you stand
They're
around,
missing so many objects.
yeah,
and
it's missing a ton
slows
of
down.
objects too, and so like there's like trees and bushes just gone. But then you're like, okay, but you know what? At least it's running fine. You know, like, you know, whatever. And then if you stand around for a minute, like, the textures actually start loading in and you realize, like, oh, they're actually decent textures. Just the pop-in's, like, really bad. And then you get into, like, any gunfight and you're like, oh, no, this is awful. It just, like, it becomes this horrible, stuttery mess. It's so not good. Don't buy it. Wait for patches or whatever, because yikes! I'm
Just get it
I'm
on
really
PS4.
I'm really disappointed.
In the world of bad Switch ports, I also played 2 recently.
Is that the Resident Evil?
Resident Evil 5 and Resident Evil 6 on the Switch are not good.
Yep.
It's so weird because they're in-house Capcom ports. I got to the credits in Resident Evil 6 in one of the campaigns. I counted. There were like 100 people like
Those are
working on the
last-gen.
Switch version.
And those are last gen ports.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it was an in-house Capcom port. Like, there's no reason it should be as bad as it is.
No reason those games shouldn't run correctly on Switch.
No, my old computer was weaker than the Switch, and it could run Resident Evil 6 just fine, 1080p, 60 FPS.
Mate, I guess they just didn't put much effort into optimizing it or something.
I mean,
they're
I've
just lazy
noticed-
about
I-
it.
They did. There are places where you can see that they did some things, like animations are a little choppier. Some mobs just like don't move right in a distance.
Okay.
But it's like they definitely didn't do enough to make it run better. Or there's something really weird going on with that game and the Switch, and something's just not working right. I don't know. It runs like 20 FPS most of the time, though, and that's like unplayable for a fast action shooter like RE6. It's Resident Evil 5 is also around that range, but it hits like 30 more often.
Yeah, I've heard RE5 is basically more like a straight like 360 PS3 port, just with better graphics.
It's the same as the PS4 version. Both of them are the same as the PS4 version, with a few changes to try to make it run better.
I guess that failed.
Yeah. But yeah, there's so many people working on these ports. I don't know how it came out this way.
I think the problem is that a lot of these Japanese companies, I mean, with Obsidian, I have no idea what happened, because Virtuous has done really good work. I mean, they even did the XCOM and Bioshock ports. They did LA Noire. They did Dark Souls. They've done a bunch of really good ports. So seeing them kind of slip and deliver something not as good is a little shocking. But like, I feel like a big problem is Japanese companies seem to really not do that. They really seem to not want to go to outside studios to do the porting. And I feel like that might be the problem there. Because there you have companies like Panic Button and Iron Galaxy and like Saber and Virtuous who are willing to do these things and will presumably do a really good job of it. But I would not be surprised if Capcom's internal team is apparently outside of DMC3 and Resident Evil Revelations 2, just like they don't really seem to be putting in the greatest of effort.
Revelations 2 on the Switch. It had an extra mini game, but it still runs pretty haphazardly.
It still runs inherently like way better than 5 and 6.
It was just, I think it was just a low priority, and so
Yeah.
they just had a lot of maybe they just threw a lot of new people at it, or less experienced people, or people who weren't as valued as they were needed for like Z8 or whatever.
It's really weird that DMC3 like is probably one of the best Switch ports.
Yeah.
With actually having new features and improvements and stuff.
Mhm.
There was one downgrade from like previous versions in that, but that's it, and it was just to make it like keep that 60 FPS, which it does do. It does not budge, which you would hope for from a PS2 game on the Switch.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4. That game.
I think it's just how much the teams care, to be honest.
Resident Evil 4 is not made to be played at higher than 30 FPS. It feels like garbage, uncapped, and the Switch version is uncapped with no option to cap it to 30 FPS.
It's funny because alternatively, Bioshock has no uncap frame rate option, which the original console releases did. You could turn off VSync and have this really stuttery, like not smooth experience, but at least it was there as an option. Here it's just like, no, it's 30 or bust, but it like it never drops, so it's like, you know, might as well.
Yeah, I just looked up some stuff. They did do stuff for the RE5 and 6 ports. They added gyro controls, which people really wanted in RE4, but they couldn't get it working there.
It didn't do it in RE4.
How could they not get it working there when they already had a version of the game which had it?
Yeah.
It didn't.
I thought Resi 4 had motion control.
The Wii version just used the pointer. That's very different from a gyro.
Okay.
I think the logic there is that the kind of movement that is in RE4 doesn't really translate well to a free movement, which it really doesn't. If you try to play the game like on PC, the mouse integration is horrible. But yeah, they added gyro, and they added like an option in RE5 for the game to do the QTEs for you. which was in RE6 like by default always, but they added it retroactively into RE5 in the Switch port, and it's only in the Switch port.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
It is. I think it is a gosh darn shame that Capcom's unwillingness to just like hire like Saber Interactive
what?
or Panic Button
I-
will mean we'll never get like a port of like RE7 or something.
I get why Capcom is hesitant, because in the last console generation, they used a bunch of Western studios, and the results across the board were terrible. Even for like last generation ports, the Devil May Cry HD collection is horrible. They're still trying to fix the problems that they made with that version, that the external company made with that version. It's bad, and the less said about the Western developed Capcom games, the better. The only one that they actually like got a good result out of was Dead Rising 2. But yeah, I can understand Capcom's unwillingness to do things outside of their company.
I'm really
now.
not looking forward to whatever ports Capcom has to announce in the near future.
I think
I'm
we'll
a
be
little worried.
fine. So the thing is, I'm pretty happy with how the Devil May Cry ports turned out for the Switch. They're all actually pretty good. Even Devil May Cry 2 is pretty good. Devil May Cry 1 and 3, they fix a few issues with the previous HD collection version. So like when they bring over Devil May Cry 4, because that's definitely going to happen, as long as it can keep 60 FPS, it's probably going to be the better version of that game, because you can play it anywhere.
What if
I like Bionic Commando Rearmed 1. The Bionic Commando reboot is a guilty pleasure because I know everybody hates it, but I don't know. I think it's fun. It's made by the fucking Payday developers.
What if they do DMC before DMC4?
They wouldn't do
they
that.
wouldn't. I feel like they would do it in order at least. of
Yeah,
release.
DMC4 would definitely come before it. I hope they don't do DMC.
You know they're gonna do a physical edition where it's like they put DMC4 on the cartridge and they have a download code for DMC in the box. You know they're gonna do that. You know it deep down in your heart. And they'll probably do the same thing with Dead Rising, where they put Dead Rising like 1 on the. No, you know what? They hate good games, so they'll put DR2 on the cart, and they'll put DR1 as a download code.
Did they ever release a version of the first Dead Rising where you can actually read the text because the developers understood how working in HD was? Because the original release of that game, which is the only one I ever played, I could not read any of that text.
I think the remastered fixes that a little bit.
I don't know if the new version does that or not.
Because that was when developers were just learning how to do anything in HD.
Yeah.
Just release the Wii version of Dead Rising instead.
I still do not.
That on one cart.
Yeah.
I still do not understand how or why they released RE0 and RE1 in a physical, and they were like, "Yeah, let's put RE0 on the cartridge." You know, the one that
It comes first.
yeah, but like, why? But like, why?
That's many mysteries.
Because
But
it
yeah,
has Billy Cohen, the greatest Resident Evil character of all time.
Who?
the one who made it out, apparently, I guess, because we've never heard about him again.
The one who survived.
Yeah,
Yeah, RE0.
The only Resident Evil character smart enough to be all like, "Fuck this! I'm not joining an organization." That was terrifying. Later,
But yeah, Outer Worlds is a stinky port. Do not spend $60 on it.
also, why
reviews.
wouldn't you
Straight from the
remake?
source.
Why wouldn't you remake Resident Evil 0 or Code Veronica over Resident Evil 4?
You don't need to remake Resident Evil 0.
They could, though. The story, okay,
Could,
because the bones of the story aren't bad, really. It's fine. It's a Resident Evil experience.
It's a
You could,
really nothing game. I don't know if they can actually salvage
yeah,
it.
but I think they can. I think there's
Yeah,
more.
I think
I
there's
got
enough
it.
there
I got-
that they could.
I got a
changes
better
and-
idea. Instead of remaking Zero, Code Veronica 4, or Survivor,
Make a new game. I get it. Ha ha ha. Ha.
Revelations 3, baby.
Okay, that's but isn't 8 wasn't the
Eight's supposedly in development as.
yeah, no, but isn't the rumor that 8 was Revelations 3?
Yeah, but 8 apparently still has Tim, or whatever the fuck his name is, from RE7.
It's,
Ethan.
it's the same
yeah.
main character from Resi 7 and
I'm
same
gonna
gameplay style as
assume
Resi 7.
I'm gonna assume that like they just retrofitted the Resident Evil 7 gameplay onto it.
I have a feeling
And
it's gonna be a mess.
character.
I have a feeling it's gonna be a mess because they took one type of game
oh
and
my
then
God.
tried to shoehorn something else into it.
Didn't the original, when they announced Resi 7, it was being demoed and stuff, weren't they talking about how it could be played in both first and third person?
No.
Originally, and
I
then
don't
they
think so.
cut out the third person. I feel like
No.
I've seen a demo of that game where it's in third person.
No, you haven't.
That game would not work in third person. It's too claustrophobic.
That's probably why they cut it out.
Also, no, it also doesn't really make sense because, like, before the game was even announced, it was a VR tech demo. So I feel like they always had the the first person perspective in mind. Remember Kitchen? I do. It comes with the PSVR on the disc.
Yeah.
It's cool.
RE7's on the way to becoming the best-selling Resident Evil game. That's something.
That is something.
Yeah, that's. I mean, I guess it's technically a Resident Evil game.
Yeah, I mean, I guess.
It's called
Uh,
Resident Evil. I mean, I can't
Hey,
deny
Nan.
that.
Hey, Nan.
Yeah.
What did you play this week?
Before I answer that, can you answer just a very random question for me?
Okay.
Pertaining to Half-Life Alex.
Yeah.
Does Gordon Freeman appear in it at all? Like, even as like a cameo. If you don't want to answer on streams, send me that message in just the channel. It's something I've been meaning to ask him. I just completely forgot. Only just suddenly remembered. So I wanted to get it
Was
out
it
there
not
before.
related to what you played this week?
Oh, it's absolutely not related to what I played this week. But it just
Did you
suddenly
really-
came into my head.
I'm
And I
sorry,
was
did
like,
you-
wait a minute.
Did you just fucking ask me to spoil Half-Life Alex on stream?
I mean, just type it in the stream channel. I don't know if it's a spoiler or not because I've not played it.
I just DM'd you.
Half-Life Alex takes place in the timeline. I'm assuming it's for Half-Life 2.
I just
don't even know.
I just sent you everything.
Half-Life is one of my gamer blind spots, even though I bought the orange box back in the day, but I just kind of played Portal and some TM2, and I don't know, like there's always been something that has some reason that I just don't feel like getting into Half-Life. Possibly because I'm always all like, but what about Half-Life 1? And everyone's like, don't worry about Half-Life 1. I'm like, but it's sequential, man.
Man, people
play it.
like the people who don't like Half-Life 1 are the same people who can't stand the tank controls in RE1. Like they're just zoomers who don't know good level design.
I played RE1.
I like classic Resident Evil. I mean, it's kind of archaic, but it's
Anyone,
you know.
I'm just gonna say it right now. We're
For a
gonna get another
purpose.
dislike, but I don't care. If you think Black Mesa is a better game than Half-Life 1, you're a fucking idiot.
Check
I'm
stream.
just putting it out
Throw
there.
that out there.
I'm throwing it out
Yeah,
there.
My desktop background.
It's a exponentially. It's a prettier game, but it's a exponentially worse shooter, and the level design is dog shit. Though the Zen levels are kind of nice. The Zen portion of Black Mesa, pretty good, thumbs up. But the Black Mesa portion of Black Mesa, fucking doo doo. So yeah, don't do that. If you're gonna play Half-Life 1, just play Half-Life 1. I know it's old, I know it, but it plays like Quake. How can you hate it? It plays like Quake. You go fast. You do bunny hopping. Go crazy. Go nuts. Accelerated back hopping.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I derailed that conversation, and it has nothing to do with what we played at all.
Yeah, what did
I
you
played.
play?
But anyway, what I have been playing this whole week, been on holiday, I can't actually go anywhere, is just going through Xenoblade Chronicles, like, again, for the first time in 9 years, thanks to the new remake. I started with the epilogue, because I didn't want to get spoiled on anything. And then now I'm onto the main game, and I'm up to the Mechonis. I'm on the Mechonis, climbing up it now, and it's still a top tier game. Still, it's still like one of my favorite RPGs. Nothing about that has changed. It's like really well done, and the new models and the new style and all that is really, really works really well on it. The game is also still a bit dated in areas, like stuff you would have been fine with on the Wii. Comes off as really janky now. Specifically, the models are really good, but the animations are real jank.
Oh man!
But I'm happy they kept the goofy jump. I really like that goofy jump animation, and they actually kept it in Smash too. Like Shulk's first jump is a goofy ass jump, so I'm fine with that. But I agree with you. He still doesn't eat the sandwich.
I saw some footage of Xenoblade Definitive Edition, and I think the new models actually might exasperate the stiltedness of the animations.
I think that is it. I think it's a bit of an issue as well, that coming off of both Xenoblade 2 and X, where they obviously like got better at animating it and had stronger hardware, and it looks really dated by comparison. The animations in Xenoblade Chronicles 2, even if you feel like the character designs are worse and all that, are infinitely better than the animation in the original. With that said, new models still look really nice.
It's weird. The new character models,
so good.
The new character models they have the same base. There's a lot of elements of them that are exactly the same. Like you can see that on Shulk's sleeves and stuff.
Yes, closed textures are still textures. They're not like 3D at all.
The textures are at least like better now, but a lot of the geometry is still the same. The big upgrade comes in like characters' hands and their faces.
Yeah, that's because they've actually been modeled this time, instead of just being textures over.
No more brick hands.
Yes, but it's good, and I'm really hoping, because Xenoblade Chronicles 2 off in like a massive way, with people still talking about wanting Rex and Pyre in Smash, and like you still see loads of fan art from Xenoblade 2 and all this. It's all really big. Xenoblade Chronicles 1 is like objectively the better game, the better cast and the better story.
I think
it just didn't sell.
The gameplay is better too.
I think the battle system's better in 1 as well. Although I think Torna's got the best battle system. Also.
I do too, but I feel like people kind of discount Torna because it's just DLC. But like Torna, I've said this on Good Morning Source Gaming before. Torna, in every way that matters, is a better game than Xenoblade 2. You could go buy the standalone Torna and play it and not play 2, and that's fine. Like the character design is way better, the combat is better. Like I even enjoy the story better. Like everything. I think it's a better game.
I started the Xenoblade talk when there's someone in the chat who's very specifically a Xenoblade 2 fan. And I just want to stress that Xenoblade 2 is still like a really good game. I still really enjoyed that game, but I think the first one is still better. Outside of the animations and the jank. Outside of the animation and the jank, I think the first one is better character writing wise. Like Shulk is one of the best JRPG protagonists, because he bucks the trend of almost every single JRPG protagonist. It is the Virgin Rex versus the Chad Shulk. And me and my housemate are just sitting there like counting everything he does that goes completely against the typical anime hero JRPG stuff, like harem protagonist sort of thing. And Shulk just was like, no, I'm all for this. I'm going to be honest, I'm going to be nice, but I'm also here just purely for revenge. And I'm not going to hesitate in getting the girl, and I'm not going to do anything like that. I'm going to be very clear.
Right. And you know what else is great about talking about the harem protagonist? All the support that Melia give each other. Like everybody genuinely likes each other. Like I said, many times I feel like a lot of that has to do with localization too, because Ryan is such a huge fan favorite in the West, and I feel like in Japan they don't care about him, and that's just because the voice acting and writing was so good for that.
Yeah, Ryan's my favorite character, but like you can tell that from the main 7, he is the least popular and the least utilized. I feel like Charlotte's probably less utilized, but Charlotte's also probably more popular than Ryan is, at least in Japan.
Yeah, but not in the West, because
in the West though, because Ryan is a legend in the West.
Yeah,
his voice acting is so good. His lines are really good. He's the big lovable jock character.
Yeah, and he could have come off as kind of this this kind of arrogant jock sort of character, but he's played off in the dub as so goofy and lovable that it works, and that's why he's so endearing, you know?
Yeah. And his friendship with Shulk is like very well written.
Yeah.
You can tell that they've sort of supported each other throughout the whole time, and Fiora gets along with them well, and Dunban, like all of them. I just think that I don't know. There's something about Xenoblade Chronicles 2 that I think it just does so well, and I think the remake as well handles some stuff great. The epilogue is pretty good. I like the new area, and it really helps flesh Melia out a lot.
Yeah.
And I think the two Nopon in the epilogue, Nene and Kino, are probably the best Nopon partners that the series has ever had. Like I can rank them all with Nene, Kino, Ricky, Tora, and whoever the blooming was in Xenoblade X that you can't actually play as, so I don't know if I should count him or not.
By the way, I do want to point out that I do like Xenoblade Chronicles 2. I just think that the other games in the series I enjoy better. Like I don't want people to think I'm a Xenoblade 2 hater.
X is so different. I find it really hard to compare. Like X is, I can see X the character models look really strange, but the animation looks a bit better. But the story is definitely the worst one. The music slaps in all of them. But the X soundtrack obviously is a Sawano-based soundtrack, and so it's very different. And flying around in gigantic mechs with no barriers is super, super fun. But at the same time, it's like 40 hours to get to the main parts. And it's basically an MMORPG without the MM part.
Well, no, because you could join guilds or whatever and have a bunch of people join you and play with you.
But you can only have 3 people join you.
Yeah, so I guess
it's not massive part is gone.
Not there.
Yeah,
my problem with
X was very heavily focused on the Wii U hardware. It would take a lot to be able to port it to the Switch, and they don't.
I don't think they should port it
viable. So that's why.
I'd rather they made an X2 or an X squared and followed up on the story, because they imply on stuff like New LA is obviously where the focus is on X, but they also say that Paris and Tokyo branches also landed on the planet elsewhere. So there's stuff to follow up in Mirror. In Mirror.
But yeah, Xenoblade X is a very mixed game. I see a lot of people who like it, but I also see a lot of people who hate it. So I don't see it as a surefire seller, especially because it is an old game that is port.
Yeah.
While Switch games tend to make magic happen with ports, Xenoblade is just niche enough that I don't think it would work out for them there.
This is why also, I think it should get a new game.
Yeah,
opposed to a.
You do like when they released Xenosaga 2 in Europe and just include it with a video of all the cutscenes from the first game.
I mean, you could probably do that. You could fit probably the first game into a 30-minute scene.
Yeah,
all the important story elements.
There's also the thing where Nintendo keeps gutting Monolith Soft's tech division to make Zelda. So
but they've also increased the size of that.
Yeah, they've increased the amount of workers,
man.
Yeah.
It's huge. They have how many different locations now? They're huge.
They've still got the 2 main offices. I think they have a third office in one of the cities, either Tokyo or stuff. I'm pretty sure that the team that was working on Breath of the Wild, I don't think that was the same team that works on.
They were pulled away from Xenoblade 2.
Okay.
Xenoblade 2 had like barely anyone working on it.
Yeah, it was
why
definitely a less. It
turned
was
out the
definitely a
way it
lesser
came.
project.
Yeah.
That's the exception more so than the rule, because Monolith Soft work on a lot of games, but they've generally that's what that specific division was all about. I think that the Breath of the Wild they were pulled away from because of the fact that X was this open, massive game with no barriers
Yeah,
that
and
Breath of the
Nintendo,
Wild wanted to be.
they were the
They
only
needed
Nintendo
support from people who
studio.
had the experience. Yeah.
They were the only Nintendo studio that could do that. They were, I mean, really, from what we've heard, they were instrumental in that game existing as it did because they weren't Nintendo themselves. I mean, Monolith is part of Nintendo themselves, but the regular Nintendo teams just were not able to handle. Oh, look! Oh man, we were talking about Breath of the Wild and Shadow Link drop. I'm sorry.
Fucking stalling. Froze for like a whole minute there.
But but going back to Xenoblade Chronicles, I'm really curious how well this one sells, because Xenoblade series has been on the up and up. While I feel like ports and remasters tend not to sell very well, as people don't want to double dip, the first one was so hard to find and is old enough that I think anyone who did buy it on the Wii probably did it anyway, and anyone who wanted to buy it on the Wii probably wouldn't. Like, it probably didn't get to, and so we'll be buying it again.
The biggest
It's
barrier
unless they
of
got
entry,
it on the Wii U, I suppose. But
the biggest
so
barrier
late
of
and who had a
entry
Wii U.
for Xenoblade hasn't been finding it in the last couple years. It's talking to people that say that game looks so ugly I can't play it. So now it does not look so ugly.
I feel
Look ugly
like
anymore.
I feel like that is still a problem with Definitive Edition because it's still a Wii game at heart. Most of the tech is still the same. Most of the geometry is still the same. Textures are increased.
I mean, it's a
around the
remaster.
board. It's a
It has-
remaster,
It's a
yes,
remaster.
but I don't know if the new faces and hands would be enough to like convert the people who thought it was ugly already.
No, I think you'd be surprised.
I think it looks. I don't know. I guess you haven't played it yet. I've played. That's also what I've been playing this weekend. At only about 15 hours, which in the grand scheme of Xenoblade is nothing. But I think it looks great. I think some of the animations and stuff are like I said, a little jank, but it does. The visuals don't take you out of the story like they could have before. I think it looks good enough. And the big appeal of Xenoblade was always the vistas and environments, and they look even better now because they look sharper. I think it's a great looking game, and I think it plays better too, which is something that not that many people.
Yeah, they've added a lot of quality of life stuff. I mean, it's one of those things where I've been thinking, oh, should I go back and play the original to try and remind myself of what it is they've actually updated, because there's stuff like I'm like, oh, this is really good quality of life feature. Was it in the original? I actually don't know. But we've actually Tris is actually reviewing that, so I guess he will check that and verify that what's new changes there are, because I think he also played the original.
I kind of want to go back
after I did, because me being in Europe, I got it like a whole year and a bit before the rest of you guys. I
imported it. I imported it because I was doing the Operation
Rainfall
stuff, and then I said, "Well, let me put my money where my mouth is. Let me buy." So I bought the European version, played it on my modded Wii, and then I later bought the American version because that was the entire point of it going through. So yeah, I have two versions of the original Xenoblade and this version. I never bought the 3DS version because I didn't buy the
3DS version.
Yeah.
Either. Despite having a new 3DS.
I did a very cool epic thing where I went to GameStop, I bought Xenoblade, and then on my way home, they announced the new 3DS and the new 3DS version of Xenoblade. Though a lot of people just like dump on the new 3DS version of Xenoblade, so maybe it's not that bad.
It's just the Wii version, like to a T, with lower resolution textures, like really lower resolution textures.
Yeah.
Everything else is exactly the same. Maybe not the draw distance, but it's really
draw distance is short. Less models appear.
It's a kind of.
I mean, it's decent. It's decent enough, but it isn't as
I
good
mean,
as the Wii version.
as much as people
Yeah.
shit on like both versions of that game, like I don't know, they're like really technically impressive for
Oh,
their
for sure.
time. Like I
I
don't think
would I would
was the
say
point- that was
the
the
new
point of
3DS
it, I'm pretty
version is
sure.
impressive, really impressive.
That was the point in the whole point in porting it was to show off what the new 3DS could do.
yeah.
Because Xenoblade's whole sort of appeal to a lot of people back when it came out was the fact that it was aiming to be this massive open game with lots of things happening in it and big, beautiful environments for the Wii. And it works as a technical marvel for the Wii. Like that's why the character models suffer because they clearly want the focus. They didn't even have a character designer for the first Xenoblade Chronicles game, which is my favorite tidbit. They just designed the clothes first and then created characters to match the outfits.
I mean, at the time too, they really weren't doing big open world Japanese RPGs. Like, I really can't think of many from that era at all.
Well, especially on the Wii, because the Wii is.
But yeah, but
a lot of Japanese RPGs around that time were actually focusing more on like really linear
stuff.
and
Yeah,
scripted stuff.
yeah. And you think about the Final Fantasy that was on those systems. 13 was and then look at 15, which feels more, like what you would see in a Xenoblade game, really. And then the 7 remake takes some from that too. So,
Speaking of Project Rainfall, as it was mentioned earlier, I kind of regret not buying Last Story when I had the chance.
No, it's okay. You could.
It's not like I know it's not like the best thing, but it's like basically really hard to find.
I think the general consent. I had a friend who he bought a Wii U. And then he got like really curious because he never owned a Wii, so he got really curious about the Project Rainfall stuff. And he liked Xenoblade. He said, "I hope they make a Last Story sequel, but I wouldn't recommend the Last Story." And then he was like, "You don't have to play Pandora's Tower."
Pandora's Tower is a great game.
Pandora's Tower is, I think, the most interesting of the three. It's definitely the most experimental.
I want to try it. I've never been able to get my hands on it.
I've been curious about replaying it with the Wii remote. I got with Xenoblade Chronicles. That's when I got my Wii Pro controller. So I just played the game with that, and then instead of using the Wii remote, and then I did the same thing for Pandora's Tower because I just at that point in time I just could not be asked with motion controls anymore. The only other person I ever knew who played Pandora's Tower played it with the Wii pointer and nunchuck. Thought it was the best game on the Wii to utilize the Wii controller and nunchuck because the whole idea of aiming the chain and using it is incredibly intuitive with the Wii remote. That it feels like the game was designed with that in mind.
Yeah,
and then
but
they just added in the controllers afterwards just to placiate those people like me who were at the time sick of using the Wii remote.
But Nan, since it has classic controller support, that means I can play with the Wii U gamepad.
True. But it has made me think that I want to go back and play Pandora's Tower with the Wii remote and nunchuck. See if I think it's a better game.
The story behind Pandora's Tower is really interesting. The developers just made a bunch of like Naruto fighting games, licensed fighting games, and they really wanted to make something of their own. And Nintendo was like, "All right, we're gonna give you a shot." And so they made Pandora's Tower. Well,
it's Gambarian who made it. It wasn't Naruto games they made. It was One Piece games.
One Piece, okay.
They're the developers behind the really good One Piece. Probably they're the developers behind the best One Piece games, which is the Grand Battle series. They're the developers who made Jump Stars and Jump Ultimate Stars.
Okay.
The really, really popular Smash Brothers clones on DS.
I mean, I think it's kind of goofy that Project Rainfall only focused on like JRPGs and didn't try to bring Fatal Frame 4 over.
I mean, I think that was the whole focus. It was three. I mean, Pandora's Tower isn't even a JRPG; it's an action game. Yeah. They focused on three games from.
Man, they could have brought
by
over
Nintendo.
They could have brought over.
They were all like brand new IPs.
They could have brought over Reagan Lave, and that would have been cool.
That would have been
epic.
That would have been a really cool one to have. I've got the game Sankeki no Reagan Lave, and I still need to play it.
It's
But I'm like-
it's goddamn EDF, but in medieval times.
They really want it.
But
I think
it's not Norse mythology stuff. It's like
Yeah, it's
all
so fucking
Norse
cool.
gods fucking fighting each other. It looks so cool. I need to set up my Japanese Wii and play it and Captain Rainbow and Chibi Robo finally.
Oh hey, Spazzy, because I know only you will care about this. Even though I care about it just a little bit. The fan translation for Earthseeker got an update, so it's now
Ooh.
even more complete.
That'll be great when it's just complete. But
I think it is
I
complete.
think it is at this point. It has to be, right? Yeah.
Yeah, like because all I remember was just like a
Man.
couple error messages being kind of in garbled text, and then some guy on Reddit was posting about it, and I was just like, "Yeah, you can bypass that." And then the guy who made the translation replied to me, and he was like, "Hi, we fixed this." So I was like, "Oh, okay, I'll go check that out then."
So yeah, for those of you that don't know, Earthseeker is yet another JRPG that was never localized for
Man.
the Wii. It's
A
a good one,
very Xenoblade-esque.
Yeah, I think we talked about Earthseekers before, didn't we?
Yeah, we
Yeah, we
briefly mentioned it because I talked about how it got a translation, but I had yet to play it.
Need to play that. Well, speaking of playing Xenoblade Chronicles has made me want to go and play Somabringer finally, which is like that and Archaic Sealed Heat are both games that I own still that I've still not played and really want to. But apparently they've both been fully translated by fans.
Oh, nice.
So like I've got the translated version of Archaic Sealed Heat now. I just need to get the one from Somabringer, and then I can finally play through them. But Somabringer I'm really curious about because just from a character design perspective, it's very much like a proto Xenoblade Chronicles. Like there's a character in it who literally looks like a fusion of Dumban and Sephiroth. And it's just like this. Okay, I can see very logically how they jumped from this to this. So I'm curious to know what other sort of connections they made because Monolith Soft have a very unique style. I feel like after they got bought by Nintendo, they went on this weird craze of making Disaster Day of Crisis and Somabringer that might be different. Disaster Day of Crisis is completely different to like anything else I feel like they've made.
I have never played that game or really looked into it on more than a superficial level. Have any of you guys played it, and what are your thoughts? I'm curious.
I own Disaster Day of Crisis, and I was somewhat enjoying it, and then I was trying to do everything, and I hit a level where the game literally told me, you can't do this now. Come back later when you've got the right equipment to do it. And I was like, nah, fuck that. And then I stopped playing.
I have it on my
Fair.
I have it on my Wii U, but I have yet to boot it up. I installed it when I installed it when I was trying out Disaster Report 4.
It's really weird because like that game only released in English in Europe, but it has like American voice actors.
Because it's set in America. It's set in America. Start as an American. Was localized.
Well,
by
it was supposed to come to America, but then Reggie went no.
They
advertised
They
it.
should make a sequel, and it should just be called Disaster Day of Crisis. No, 2020.
Like Ruben Langdon and Dan
just be called
Southworth are in that game.
2020.
Dante and Virgil are in Disaster Day of Crisis. It's weird.
Oh no!
Wait, are they? What? Oh, they're
They're
voice
actors,
actors.
But I mean, yeah,
what?
they had Disaster Day of Crisis at the E3 for the Wii when they were announcing like the E3 2006 when they were announcing the launch lineup and everything. Like,
Project Hammer. Oh man.
Yeah, Disaster Day of Crisis was there. Reggie was like, "You will believe tidal waves exist when you play Disaster Day of Crisis or whatever the hell."
Sorry, my computer is
Right next to
my computer hates me.
Oh no!
Oh, that's why. My temperature.
They show off another code R at that.
I'm pretty sure
that's
played...
another game that didn't come out in America.
Yeah, they did because me and my housemate were talking about it yesterday. About what happened to certain studios like Sing that just made a bunch of good games and then suddenly went completely defunct. And I was wondering
hear-
why that didn't. Because like the first Another Code, I feel like it did pretty well. Like they were hyping it up a lot as being in this early DS era of trying to get more casual players, being like a novel game form. Whoa!
I feel like Another Code and Hotel Dusk did well on the DS, but I also feel like Sing was putting too much money into their major projects and not making much back. And like they were basically just like a black hole for revenue for while they were developing Another Code R and Last Window. So
Yeah.
Nintendo was just like, fuck it, we're not releasing this in America. We're just gonna cut our losses and go.
It's a shame because Another Code R is really good.
So is Last Window. Both
so
those
is
games
Last.
good.
All four of their games are really good, and then Thing went off and made that random game on the 3DS, which is like the most disappointing thing I've ever played.
There was just one person from Sing on there, I think.
One person from Sing, because it looks a lot like Hotel Dusk.
It's the artist.
Okay.
The artist, and the director of Hotel Dusk, I believe.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm sure the director. I'm sure there was
But
more
he
people.
was not the director. No, it's the same guy.
Hmm.
The artist and director were the same guy.
People were hyping it up as being this spiritual. In fact, they were hyping up as being a spiritual successor to.
Yeah, they were.
It was going to be released episodically, which I was fine with at the time because that was sort of the trend. And then I
nothing
got
happened.
the game and I beat it in a bus journey.
Yeah, it's like an hour long.
Yeah, it's an hour long and it's one part of a longer story, so it doesn't even conclude.
Yeah,
it's clearly like because it's the first chapter. It's also a bit of a tutorial. It's just a bit like, oh, this is it.
Yeah, it's a bit disappointing.
Oh man, and then they never released a follow-up. So
yeah, I think it did awful.
Yeah, not surprised.
You guys ever think about how the Wii is actually like Nintendo's best console, but there's a whole generation of people who grew up playing Melee and nothing else who think the GameCube is better because they're not right.
Let's not have this discussion.
I wouldn't even say Melee. It's the people that think Sunshine is the best 3D Mario that I have
the Wii has so many goddamn weird games on it, and it's like the best thing ever.
I want to finish talking about Hotel Dusk. So like the spiritual successor, Cold Case Investigations. I actually just found this out the other day. It also had the same composer as Last Window, who hadn't done like basically any major games since Last Window, but now he's working on Deadly Premonition 2.
Oh yeah, they announced that. They confirmed that, didn't they?
Yeah, you can really hear that in the trailer. It's very similar to that style of music in those games.
It's hype though, because Hotel Dusk and Last Window are great. I do not understand the logic behind not having any similarities in their game name. Like Hotel Dusk, Room 215, and Last Window, Secret of Cape West. Just from those titles alone, you'd have no idea they were actually one was a sequel to the other. There's no connecting through line. You have to actually look at it and be like, oh, that's the same guy, and both cut on the cover of both of them. I wonder how much that actually might have impacted the Last Window sales and it not being released in America again, right? That one also wasn't released in the US, right?
Yeah, Last Window was not released in America.
At least that one's region free because it's on the DS. So
yeah, I imported that day one.
Yeah, I've got that, and I good games. I want Nintendo to go back and do more stuff like that, or follow up on Another Code because I really like the Another Code series.
I really like it if they let the Sing staff work on those games again. But because I don't know, maybe advancements in technology will make them easier to make. There's that whole thing with like live 2D that makes everything easier. The fucking spiritual successor to Hotel Dusk even used that.
Yeah, well, I mean that's what loads of like Japanese YouTubers.
I'm pretty sure the remake of like the Famicom Detective Club is using Live 2D.
Wouldn't surprise me. It's being made by Majors, who are known for making loads of visual novels. Mainly Steins Gate is their big one, but that wouldn't surprise me if that was using Live 2D. Make them move in when you're talking to them. Anyway, because just realized the conversation's gone completely off track. Other than Xenoblade Chronicles, I've also been playing golf with friends.
Ooh.
Nice.
Clubhouse games. Golf with friends is pretty fun. It's just a mini game. No, not mini game. Sorry, it's just mini golf, but you can play with like. I think we've been playing it with like 8 or 9 people. Everyone playing mini golf all at once.
I
Some
played
of
that a while back. I think I played it in its like infancy. It was really, really buggy.
I know this version's really, really fun, and you can also play hockey and basketball mode where you're doing the same course, but there's like a net or a hoop at the end that you have to dunk yourself into. Still playing as the ball. You can mess around with a lot of the settings. You went completely ham on one of the settings and had half gravity. Balls bounce twice as hard, and also your balls becomes a random shape at the beginning of every hole. Some where people were balls, but others were like cubes or pyramids. An acorn. Trust me, trying to golf with an acorn is incredibly infuriating. It's really good. Yeah, Rua's just asked anyone playing Clubhouse games. I am playing Clubhouse games. In fact, yesterday I learned how to play backgammon, which is a good game. Funnily enough, I finally know how to play Hanafuda and Mahjong as well.
That's the kind of game that I'd really like. It's $40 though. Whew.
You know what's nutty? That game's made by ND Cube.
Yeah, it is.
It's very like it's funny because I was kind of playing it and I this is probably like a really weird specific thing to notice, but I was playing the guest pass and I'm like, visually this looks a lot like Super Mario Party. Because the mini games Super Mario Party, like the way everything is modeled is very like off design for Mario Universe stuff. Like how they have that cooking mini game with like the hyper detailed skillet and like cube of spam or whatever. Like it doesn't look like it belongs in like you know what I mean?
Yes, yeah, I know what you mean.
And I when I was playing the Connect 4, I'm like, man, that like the plastic rendering on the Connect 4 thing looks oddly specific. It almost looks like the Mario the Super Mario Party mini games. And yeah, this is what they've been doing post Super Mario Party.
Why wouldn't you get Super Mario Party 2 like everyone was sort of predicting? I'm fine with that. Like I'm really enjoying. I enjoyed Clubhouse games back on the DS. I felt like it was a really underrated classic, as the name would imply. You guys have always had it as Clubhouse game. So over here in the UK, it's called Worldwide 51 Worldwide Games, and in the original version on DS is actually called 42 All Time Classics of Clubhouse games. It's basically the same thing. But I used to like playing solitaire and card games on that, and now but again in 3D, but also learn how to play more complicated games like Mahjong and Hanafuda and Night. The stupid Roman one that I can't ever win. 9 people, whatever it's called.
I want to pick it up at some point. As Matt says, the problem is it's $40, but also like I wouldn't want to buy it physically. I'd want it like digitally, just to have it like offhand at any moment.
I think that's what it's sort of built for, to have it like that.
Yeah.
I think it depends on how much you're sort of into old games and stuff, really. Like I've got a friend who thinks it's perfectly worth the price, and the only thing he really plays on it is Mahjong.
I think it's worth the price too. There's a lot of ports coming out right now.
There's so many games and only so much money. That's
but also, like I'd like to play it online with people, and everyone would have to have their own copy to play online.
Yeah, that's my only criticism so far of the game. I've got 2 criticisms. One, if you do local multiplayer, you have to use Joy-Cons, which I think is really stupid. I don't see, if we both have a Pro Controller, I don't see why we can't use the Pro Controller. I get it for some where motion controls are more important, like the darts, but that's also the same in single player, so I don't know why.
I from the guest pass, I much prefer the touch controls. I think they're nice.
Yeah, the only one I've used touch controls for is piano because you have to. But on the and then the other one is that so many games nowadays use like mobile phones for local multiplayer stuff like Jackbox and all that, and Sony's released a few games that do that. And this seems like the perfect game for the card ones to do that with, so that everyone has their cards on their phones. It seems like something that could really easily be done on the Nintendo Switch Online app.
Well, it's funny because
hasn't done it, and it's a very Nintendo thing to do, and it's clearly so that everyone who owns their own Switch has to buy the game or use Guest Pass. Is it so that everyone has their own Switch?
Well, it's funny because the Guest Pass, like that's the point of it, is that you can play online or local with people who actually own the game.
Sorry, I realized that as I was saying it, but what I meant in my criticism is that you still need a Switch to do it. In my household, there are 3 of us. 2 of us have a Switch, and then the third person just plays on my Switch, plays stuff like Animal Crossing with his own account on my Switch. That means if the 3 of us want to play like a card game through 42 all-time 51 worldwide games, we can't. Only 2 of us can play it, and the other one will just have to watch because he doesn't have a Switch, even though we haven't needed any other multiplayer game so far. It just feels like something that could be easily fixed by having that Guest Pass be on phones as well as an option, at least for the card games and stuff. But no,
I think my only problem with the Guest Pass is that it's super limited. It's only like 4 games. Like I guess because it's also trying to be like a demo, so you can play these games on their own. But like, I wouldn't mind downloading a Clubhouse games. Like the game itself isn't very big as a download, is it? Like it's just like a couple gigs.
I don't know off the top of my head, to be honest, but I don't think so. It's very basic.
Let me look. It's 2 gigs. So yeah, like I wouldn't mind them just releasing an actual Guest Pass version where like even if I can't play the games on their own, because I'd have to buy the video game to do that. Something that just download share, multiplayer. That would be okay.
Feels like a missed opportunity because I feel like the DS. Well, then again, it's the same problem the DS had, but the DS also didn't have access to smartphones and stuff to do that on multiplayer. And DSs are also much cheaper, so I think more people had them, unlike the Switch. So, yeah. But I've been playing Clubhouse games.
Spazzy, what have you been playing?
He's just.
Did you say Spazzy just dipped out to let his dog?
I
was speaking to him before this, and apparently he's not been playing anything other than Blade Chronicles this week.
I also, I've been going back through Trauma Center, which is a series that had its 10th anniversary for its last game earlier last month. Those games are great. I love them. They're surgery sims, but not really. They're like really over the top. They're kind of like puzzle games, but in the context that you're doing surgery. And it just like it all seems normal, and then suddenly alien mutant viruses come out, and it just becomes like a fucking JRPG. In like tone and like the music too. It's such a bizarre game series. I absolutely adore it. That series got 5 games, and all of them are good. So I guess it's good that it went out before it had a chance to have like a bad or underwhelming game, but I wish it was still around. It could have been really good on the 3DS.
Yeah.
But Atlas decided to basically gut almost every series that they were making except for Shin Megami Tensei, Persona, and Etrian Odyssey.
I think those are the big sellers, especially Persona.
Etrian Odyssey doesn't sell like boatloads. It's really cheap to make. So they can just make one every year.
Matt,
Yeah.
you better be training and preparing for next Magfest, whenever that is, to be the trauma center king.
I was second place last year.
Yeah, not good enough. You gotta you gotta take it all. You gotta win.
Look, somebody showed up who could get the highest rank in the hardest game in the series.
Yeah, that could be you.
I couldn't compete with that. I just
Yes,
got
you-
lucky that
That sounds like quitter talk.
I just got lucky that like the final round was on the easiest game in the series.
You gotta do it. You gotta win the mag points or whatever they give out
They give
For,
out money vouchers for the
vendor.
the
Yeah.
room.
So then you can go in there into the vendor room and buy your own goddamn copy of Dead or Alive Extreme 3 Scarlet. You fuck.
Oh man, I got ripped off at the vendor room last time we went. Because I bought a copy of Ocarina of Time 3D. It was shrink wrapped, so it was $20. It had the Nintendo Selects cover. It was definitely used because there was like one file on there that was severely hacked and used as an exploit, like really early on in the 3DS's life to
Oh, no.
exploit the 3DS's firmware. So I got ripped off. They made me pay $20 for a used game.
I don't even think I bought anything from the vendor's room this year. I bought like a loose copy of Ark for the Switch because I was curious, but that's because this guy was like selling loose Switch cards and he had Ark and I think he wanted like $30 for it, and I'm like, can I haggle? And he's like, yeah, and I'm like 15, and he's like, okay. I was like, there we go.
Oh, that game. Oh man,
Such a
Ark-
piece of shit.
Ark is a horrible, horrible game, but it's so fascinating whenever it comes out on a new console, and it looks worse every single time.
Yeah, really. But yeah, I don't think I bought anything else at the Magfest vendor room. I guess that's what we've played this past week. Goddamn.
That was a long one. But I don't. So this week's obviously been a week, I think, for everything that's happening out there. And I hope everyone's been staying safe. But because of that, a lot of news that was probably going to happen this week has been pushed back next week.
I do want to talk about one bit of news this week, and that is the Game Gear Mini.
Oh right, yeah. Let's yeah. All right, let's talk about the Game Gear Mini, and then I think what we can do for the rest of this episode is give predictions and sort of stuff we expect from the events that were pushed back from last week, like the PS5 event. Maybe if Nintendo's going to announce anything.
So Nan, you're the token European of the gang, and which means statistically, there's a higher chance of you being a Sega kid than really anything else, or really more than any of us.
I see the logic.
because Sega was sicko mode in Europe. So did you have a Master System or a Game Gear, and would you like to share your opinion on the Game Gear Mini?
Okay. I didn't. My only actual access to Sega stuff growing up was a Genesis that my grandfather had and a Dreamcast that I eventually got. However, through the use of Sega Genesis collections, Sonic Adventure DX, etc., I played a whole bunch of Master System and Game Gear games in my gaming time. Not all of them. Like, I still need to play Phantasy Star, and that's the sort of the next Sega game on my list to do. But as someone who likes the mini systems, I have the Super Nintendo Mini and NES Mini, and I've been contemplating getting the Mega Drive Mini as well. I think it's and someone who has a Game Boy Micro. It is a neat novelty, but it's 100% something that is collector only, because I couldn't see ever playing a game on the tiny thing other than just for the laughs because of how small that screen is. And the Game Gear games aren't that great anyway.
Okay.
Fantasy Star I haven't played, but I hear it's good. But the only Game Gear game I have any sort of good memories of is Sonic Triple Trouble.
So here's where you're wrong, bud.
Okay.
I started collecting consoles like well over a decade ago. And what was great about buying old consoles in the late 2000s is that if the console didn't do well, nobody wanted it. It's not like now where like the more the system failed, the more people want to buy it so they can be like, underrated gem. The CDI has some So I remember getting a Master System for $15 with like 6 games and 4 controllers, and I got a Game Gear for I think like $8, and with a whole bunch of games, and I started collecting for those, and that's because I think most people always see the Master System as like a worse NES, when really it's like a very cool like separate platform that's kind of all to itself. Like it has a very unique library of games. And the same can be said about the Game Gear, because I think a lot of people's notion of the Game Gear is that, oh yeah, it's that thing that has like the kind of crusty 8-bit Sonic games, and then like nothing really else on it. What I don't like about the Game Gear Mini, as someone pointed out in chat, is that the way they're handling this is that there's 4 colors, actually there's 5 colors, and each console has like 4 games unique to it.
Yeah.
So
Which
if you
way too low.
yeah,
right?
so if you want to collect them all, if you want to collect all 16, you got to pay $200 to own all 4 of these things.
Okay, so here's the thing. One of the games on one of those 4 systems is Megami Tensei Gaiden Last Bible.
Yeah.
I want you to imagine playing a whole ass JRPG and trying to read the text on that tiny screen.
Yeah, it's like a 1.5-inch screen or something. It's very puny.
System for ants, and I think that's why it's a entirely gimmick system, the sort of thing you would attach onto like your phone or a bag. I'm surprised there isn't a keychain on it. In all honesty. Like, it's so strange. Like I'm sure if you're a big Sega fan,
but see, here's the thing.
But it is a bit too expensive.
But here's the thing. Here's the thing that really like irks the ever-loving shit out of me, is that like the game selection is poo-poo.
I haven't actually seen the game selection.
So the game selection is on the black one. There's Sonic and Outrun and Puyo Puyo 2. Both of fine, and Royal Stone. Okay. And then
what was the last one? Sorry,
Royal Stone.
Okay, I've played that one. Sort
of a lesser known game. The yellow one has another Puyo Puyo game and 3 Shining Force games on it. Shining Force 1, 2, and Final Conflict.
What I miss?
Shining Force. We're talking about the Game Gear.
Talking about the Game Gear Mini.
Oh, I don't like that.
The red one comes with 2 Last Bible games, Columns, and Game Gear Shinobi.
Hey, Colin, do me a favor and give me the rough percentage of games in those that are JRPGs. It's pretty large.
Yeah, it's quite a bit. And then the blue one is Sonic and Tails, which is also known as Sonic Chaos. Gunstar.
Spazzy, let me finish.
Go ahead. Go. Yeah. Okay. I'm gonna let you finish. But I'm just gonna say,
Gunstar Heroes. Another Puyo Puyo game. And
I don't think
Colin.
Yeah.
It's not a Puyo Puyo
Can
game.
you put this on screen?
Okay. Is it not a Puyo Puyo? It looks like maybe.
You talking about Baku Baku or Silver?
Oh, is that what that is? Oh, okay. It's Baku Baku.
Baku Baku's on the one.
Oh, boy. I'm gonna put this on screen.
There's only 2 Puyo Puyo games in this, and although Nazo Puyo Puyo is a really weird one, like the front cover has them dressed as up making curry. Like I'll share this in the stream chat. It's the most random ass video game box I've ever seen. What is basically just a video game.
There's Sylvan Tale, and I'm just like, okay, but there's more. Like there's more. It's not just that they're like, oh yeah, these are just like a bunch of obscure games I don't know. It's like where are all of the big like games of the Game Gear? Like where's Streets of Rage? Where's Mega Man? Where's Master of Darkness? Where's Battletoads? Where's Mortal Kombat?
I
Where's
think
Jurassic
a lot of
Park?
these-
Mega Man
I mean-
is one of the better Game Gear games.
Correct me if I am wrong on this. I feel like every single one of these is a first-party Sega title. Now that Sega own Atlas,
Yeah, they own the
Can
last Marvel
say-
games.
But even then, like where's like Space Harrier and Afterburner? Like which had
Well, that-
Game
I mean,
Gear
that one, yeah.
versions. Yeah. And even if they didn't, like the Game Gear could play Master System games, so they easily could also put like the best of the Master System, best of the Master System on here.
I think considering how
It's not about the
small
Master System
those-
though.
I
It's
know,
about the
but
Game
I'm
Gear.
just
Yeah.
saying it's
Like-
there if they had to. But there's way better games on the Game Gear.
Like this would be, I think it's the lack of games per thing. Like if all of these games were all in one system instead, and then you could just get that system in a variety of different colors and they weren't exclusive, people would be more okay with it. It's the fact that it is 4 games, and some of them, like the RPG ones, are just ridiculous to have on a tiny screen.
Yeah.
Makes it an issue, people.
I'm just like, how do they not have Streets of Rage on this?
I mean, they don't have the best Sonic game on the Game Gear, so
What's
just the
weird
thing.
is it
Where the
seems
fuck
like
is
they were
Sonic Labyrinth.
Yeah.
they were originally going for, I guess, a theme for each one, and then they just added one extra game to break up that theme.
yeah.
Yeah, and then there's
That-
the news that they wanted to just do one game per thing, and then they went, you know what? No, we'll do 4.
Here's the thing.
Give them what they
If
want.
it had 4 games and it was this big and it attached to a keychain and it was $15, that's a good deal.
I'm
Yeah,
not
it's the fact that
like
it's more than $15.
That's
I'm
the
not-
problem.
I'm not
That's the
saying
problem.
I want to play Space Harrier and Afterburner on this tiny little garbage thing. I'm just saying that it would make it a little more enticing. But then again, there's also a really good chance this is not coming overseas.
Yeah, probably.
But still, like I feel like generally I'm just kind of bummed with the selection.
Wonder what games they would have chosen if it was just one. I think we can assume Sonic the Hedgehog and Shining Force Gaiden are probably the headliners of others. But I can't imagine having 2 Game Gears with Sonic as the headliner for both.
There's 3 Last Bible games. Where's the third one? Sega, what are you doing? You're holding out.
Yeah. Where's Coca-Cola Kid? Goddamn.
Well, there's technically like 5, but there's only 3 on the Game Gear. So
Honestly,
It's-
this thing made me want to load the entire Game Gear library onto my Vita and then go, wow.
It's like, I'm sure you guys touched on this, but just the fact that there's so many JRPGs
Yeah.
that are so text heavy on such a small screen is insane. That those are the games that they decided to put on
Yeah,
this
that's
tiny
really
screen.
random.
as I look in Stream Channel, I put up a mock-up of what it would look like.
Yeah, that seems
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm really just waiting for the Game Boy Micro Mini. That's
To
be able to-
more games.
yeah.
I-
To be able to play those portable Fire Emblems on a system the size of my thumbnail is going to be amazing.
You know, this is when they're
I
going to
would
release
actually,
Mother 3. This is where Mother 3 is officially coming to the West in the Game
Yes.
Boy Micro Mini.
I'd really like a reissue of like the Game Boy Advance hardware because mine sucks.
I mean,
You know
it's
what's-
still. Well, I mean, it is a little pricey to pick if you want like a very specific model of the SP or things like that. But
You know what's super nutty though about all of this? I did the math. You can go on eBay and buy a Game Gear, and then you can go on like Stone Age Gamer or something and buy an EverDrive for that Game Gear, and that would still cost significantly less than buying all 4 Game Gear Minis.
Oh, and here's a little secret. Actually, the form factor for the Game Gear and the screen size and the battery life all suck. I mean, they're all limitations of the age it came out in. I know there's nostalgia to playing on original hardware,
Yeah,
but I mean, you could definitely
I mean, of
get
course,
some
there's
sort of portable
there's-
system.
there's significantly better ways of doing it nowadays, like
Yeah.
the Vita or the PSP, or even like a hacked 3DS. But it like, I'm just saying, I think it's really silly
Yeah,
that
I get what you're
buying
saying.
all of the original hardware plus new stuff that allows you to play every game ever on it is still cheaper than 4 of these little bastards.
And it doesn't even come with a TV tuner. So what's the point?
Yeah, you can't even plug your Xbox 360 into it.
That was the one news from this week.
Wait! You can plug your Game Gear into your Xbox 360. Please continue. I don't know what you're talking about.
Well, I mean, the TV tuner, you can, it has like composite in,
Oh,
so
that's
you
funny.
could
I
just
never thought about
realistically
that.
put like plug anything into it.
Yeah, I did not think of that. Man, that thing was pretty neat back in the day. Coming from an old timer, it was like, oh
It
man,
still is kind of neat. Like,
yeah,
it's comfy. It's chunky, but it's comfy.
yeah.
And the games are good. The games are real. Like, I think the Game Gear has one of the most the Game Gear gets a lot of flack because it has a lot of overlap with the Master System and the Game Boy, and everyone would much prefer owning a Game Boy than a Game Gear. But like, usually the games were just overall better.
I mean, they were
on
better.
The Game Gear. Yeah.
They were better, but the Game Boy had such a glut in terms of really the amount of games and some really well-produced Nintendo games as well. Not that the Game Gear didn't have great games, but it literally came down to battery life.
The thing is a battery hog.
I was on a road
It's
trip
not
with
Link's
my
bad,
parents.
but it's bad.
I was on a road trip with my parents, and I was playing, I think, the first Sonic game they released, which is not a long game because it's a Sonic game, and it was shorter than your typical Sonic games anyways. And I was literally fighting Robotnik's the last battle, and I was just about to kill him, and the batteries died out, and I said, I am never playing this thing again. I'm like, this is stupid. It's not as bad as the Lynx, but also nobody owned the Lynx.
Yeah.
The Lynx was neat. It had a good version of Rygar. By the way, guys, play Rygar on NES Classic. It's probably hasn't aged that well, but I liked it a lot as a kid.
Hey. I remember there was like a bunch of people that were saying, instead of getting a Game Gear Mini, you should buy the analog Game Boy clone. And I was like, absolutely not. Stop shilling for this god-awful company.
Yeah, analogs, they're very pricey. They're very pricey. Everything
I
they do.
do not get the appeal of buying overpriced emulation consoles. I get it. FPGA, it's not technically emulation, but like it still kind of is. And whatever, buy a Vita. Like, just buy a Vita.
At the end of the day, I'm also one of those people that doesn't care about buying original hardware. I think it's whatever. If something is emulating perfectly, then who the hell cares if it's original hardware? Then you're just being anal retentive about things.
Well, that's exactly like, that's my point. Like at that point, like what can't perfectly emulate Game Boy at this point?
Yeah,
you
know,
I
agree.
Like it's such a situation of you could spend $200 on a thing that plays Game Boy carts really good, even though you're presumably going to put an EverDrive into it anyway, because who wants to carry around these carts anymore?
I mean, emulators are starting to even account for the input lag that you're getting playing on HD screens. They're doing things that I mean, eventually it's gonna be just like playing it on the original hardware, except oh my god, it's not on a 13-inch screen with glow and scan lines. Who cares, man? Just play.
A Vita is still expensive though. A Vita's $100. You can buy a used Vita for like
I got a
Not-
PlayStation. I got a PlayStation
Yeah.
TV. Can I hack? Can I hack that?
Yes.
I've never looked it up.
Yes.
Beautiful.
There you go. Bada
I'm
bing,
very
bada boom.
excited. Yeah, I have to find it. It's somewhere in my in one of my closets. I got it like on sale for $20, and I never hooked it up. But I really, especially now, because the PS4 and the PS5 is going to be the same shit. I'm not going to be able to play like PS1 games on there that I own. I own them on the PlayStation Network. But screw them. They're not bringing it over. They're not bringing over emulation for PS1 games that you can buy on the PS3 shop because Sony's awful with
And
that.
you'll also be able to play eBay, and you'll also you'll be able to play the entire PSP lineage on it.
Yeah, exactly. So
You can
I'm excited to do that.
you can buy a Brazilian bootleg that has like 100 Mario ROMs on a disc.
I love I love that. By the way, you brought up GameCube before, as people love GameCube, blah blah. So I was in college during the 6th gen of systems. So my nostalgia is very heavily to the 16-bit era, like just because that's when I was a kid. I mean, I
Yeah.
played NES games too, but I was really young. Like when I was really kind of like a preteen to a tween, like it was the Super Nintendo and Genesis, and that's like what I think about as like the golden age of gaming, because everybody, when you're at that age, you're all like, oh man, those are the games. But that gen was so great, like just from top to bottom, and so different. It was the last gen where like you can look at the lineup of the PlayStation 2, the GameCube, the Dreamcast, and the original Xbox, and they're all super different. The hardware was different, the software was different. They were all interesting and had cool games. And after that, it just kind of died.
Yeah, I feel
everything's
like
so homogenous.
I feel
That was-
like aside from like the Wii and the DS, like experimentation in games kind of died in the 7th generation.
It kind of sucked because the Xbox represented kind of Western devs and a lot of devs that were PC only or primarily PC making their way to consoles, and that was awesome, and that's what made the Xbox library so cool. But then they just kind of took everything over going forward, I feel like, and everything kind of, and I love Western devs. I love Bethesda. I love just like I said, a lot of things that were seen as PC only games. But like the style of game has changed a lot, like, and everything's a lot more homogenous than it used to be. And like the only things that you find that are really different, I feel like, are indie games now. Indies kind of took over that niche. The reason I brought that up, by the way, is I was thinking of you're talking about getting a bunch of ROMs, and it just reminded me of how the Dreamcast was so poorly designed that you could just take any CDRW and like toss an emulator on. And I remember in college we had like NES and SNES and like Genesis emulators, and we just like throw that on and play it like all day on the Dreamcast.
The nice thing about that PSTV is that you can, when you get sick of it, you can just like throw it on eBay and you'll make like $200 flat.
Ooh, really?
Yeah, because
It was funny.
people really want the PSTV.
I got it while they were still manufacturing it.
Yeah,
I got them when they were clearancing them out because they thought nobody wanted them.
it's actually funny. You know, like people have gone
Same way I got Earthbound, by the way, for $20.
People have gotten so gung-ho with modding the Vita that you don't even need to like buy a PSTV to
Phantom. If your GameStop actually has a PSTV for $35, do it. It's a really good price.
But the thing is, like, nowadays you don't even need to buy a PSTV to play Vita games on your TV, because people have been able to mod in video out from the Vita over USB. So people have been making their own like Vita Switch style dock to just plug the thing into your TV and then hook it up with the DualShock 4, and it just acts like a.
Didn't the PSP Go have a dock where you could play it on TV?
Yes, it did. It really irks the shit out of me that was a really cool feature, that the PSP Go was basically a Switch before the Switch, and then when it came time to release the Vita, they just did not include that functionality at all.
The Joy-Cons were conceptually a big part of the Switch too, though. But the entire Switch, like other companies have done that. There's a version of like a Neo Geo handheld that did that too, right?
Maybe?
I think actually no. I think Sakurai talked about it
Okay,
during his Neo Geo.
okay, so that
Oh,
that
the Neo Geo X. Yeah, that
Yeah.
thing. Oh,
it
ugh.
sucks.
Yeah, it sucks.
Cheap though.
But
But
the Vita is a really good emulation machine. I highly recommend it. And it's also a Vita. Neo Geo did not do the Switch before the Switch better. No goddamn way. The Neo Geo X is a piece of shit.
You just put it in a fucking box.
The PSP Go at least has like games you want to play on it. Or
Hey,
let me
King
clarify.
of Monsters.
Let me clarify. It at least played games you want to play well.
Yeah, because the Neo Geo X, the emulation was horrible.
Yeah, it's stinky. It's really bad. Hell, you can buy SNK collections for the PSP and the PSP Go, and it works better.
And the Switch, and it works perfect because it's the Switch.
Yeah.
I want to
anyway,
Switch
guys,
TV.
should
We
we?
Switch TV.
Guys, I'm just being cautious of time. Should we actually talk about what we kind of want to be announced this week? Predictions wise, and then begin wrapping up because that's.
5.
Is that actually? Do you think that's actually got any chance of being shown off this week?
Yes.
That you do.
so not this week. But there is the New Game Plus Expo where Atlas is going to be on the 23rd. I feel like it's possible. It's a 50-50 chance that it's either going to be Shin Megami Tensei 5 or Persona 5
Scramble.
Localization.
It's going to be Scramble localization.
But the thing is, Atlas is very conscious with how they release their games and announce them, because they didn't announce Persona 5 until after Shin Megami Tensei 4 was already out.
Yeah.
So I just hope we get some news about Shin Megami Tensei 5. Maybe actually get some gameplay, because
I feel like we have to get some gameplay at this point if we're going to talk about anything.
Pre-rendered concept trailers, and
yeah,
that doesn't bode well for me. I'd really like to see what the character designs actually look like, because the most we've seen are the backs of 2 characters. One of them is wearing like a suit with flower petals on it. It's a very Kazuma Kaneko. There's a picture of Kazuma Kaneko, the creator of SMT, from like the development of Persona 2, one of the Persona 2 games, and he's just like frolicking in flower fields, and it's such a stark contrast to how like edgy those games are. It's really something. But yeah. We're definitely going to see No More Heroes 3 again.
Yeah.
That is no question about it. Fucking Suda51 posted the first in-game look at No More Heroes 3 on Twitter in front of behind a fucking Rick and Morty toy. Yeah. I think that's all I can safely predict. I think maybe we could possibly get an announcement for Devil May Cry 4 for the Nintendo Switch, because the release schedule for the Devil May Cry ports was like a couple months between each one. So that lines up with it being around now. Other than that, I don't really have any idea of what we might see.
So there was a leak recently, sort of, where everyone's favorite website, Amazon France, who has a bit of a rocky history with whether or not things posted there are bullshit or not. And they posted a bunch of placeholder listings for a whole heck load of games, including some Switch stuff. And I know, like, from Bethesda, they had like one Switch only release, and then they had 2 multi-platform stuff. My lock of the week is that one of them is going to be Wolfenstein 3. One of those multi-platform ones are going to be Wolfenstein 3, because Youngblood was basically a prequel. And Wolfenstein 2 is also on Switch, so, I mean, it makes sense.
There's a single Capcom listing that's Switch only, right?
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
so. My thought was that would
Devil
be
May Cry 4.
Devil May Cry 4 was what I thought that would be.
Yeah, it's either going to be DMC4 or a DMC collection, or
DMC collection already happened
no, you know what I mean.
in Japan.
No, you know what I mean.
Fuck you.
DMC4 and DMC. And then they could do that. I mean, they released RE5 and 6 at the same time.
The thing is, though, those 2 games run on different engines.
Well, I almost said
DMC
so is
and
RE5 and 6.
DMC4.
They kind of do.
No, they run on the same MT framework.
Yeah, but one's like a inherently newer version.
Well, yeah, I think RE6 is on like MT Framework 2 or something. But yeah.
But yeah, I think or it could just be Dead Rising 1 or 2. But I think they're just gonna finish off Devil May Cry before moving on to that.
Yeah, I think they'll finish off Devil May Cry as well. That's why that's my prediction for that.
The thing with Devil May Cry 4 is that they probably won't even have to change anything, so let's just fucking release it.
Yeah, easy release.
That
one can get a physical.
I don't know what that Switch only Bethesda thing could be, because like there's so many games they could port.
Could it be just something like Elder Scrolls Blades?
Well, they already
but a physical.
No.
Mario X Elder Scrolls. It's groundbreaking.
I like, part of me is like, it'll probably be another game that runs on id Tech, because that is the one Bethesda engine that actually that Bethesda seems to actually care about porting any games that run on it onto Switch. Like, they don't even want to port like they haven't ported like Fallout over. Like the only like Gamebryo engine they've done is Skyrim. But everything else has been id Tech, and it's also been specifically id Tech 6, which makes me think they'd rather it's gonna maybe be like Dishonored 2 or like Evil Within 2. But I would be down if it's like Prey or Wolfenstein: The New Order, or like an actual Fallout game. I know this is a meme. I'd buy 76. I'd buy 76 on Switch.
Is Catherine Fullbody still on Gamebryo?
No idea.
No.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Fallout was my thought for Bethesda one. Fallout,
yeah, it's weird they
some
haven't.
kind of Fallout port.
It's weird they have not brought. No, it couldn't be Doom Eternal, because there's already a product page for Doom Eternal.
Yeah.
Like, it's like there's been pre-orders up for the Switch version of Doom Eternal since the game was announced, because they planned it to be day and date. So it can't be a new listing unless it's for like the collector's edition, which I really doubt they're going to do the collector's edition on Switch if it's coming out this late. So yeah, it's probably just another Bethesda game.
That seems most likely.
Yeah, and then the third game, the second multi-platform, I don't know what it is, because they had it was originally listed as Switch PS4 only, which made me think it was something that was potentially on Xbox backwards compatibility. So they wouldn't have to make a new version for Xbox, but now they listed an Xbox version, so I don't know. But then again, this is, you got to take all this with a grain of salt. So
like Elder Scrolls 6 or something.
On Switch,
For
though.
Switch.
I mean, then again, if they announce Doom Eternal as a first thing for Switch and Skyrim was released as like a early Switch title, maybe they are going to try and put Elder Scrolls 6 on Switch, even if it's a butchered version of it.
Yeah, I mean,
They tried with Wolfenstein 2. I mean, it's not a good version of the game, but it's a version of the game.
yeah, I mean, it got better with patches, but it's also still not a good game. But
Essentially something.
I know a lot of people really want a 3 in New Vegas remaster, and like I would be down for that. I hope they don't do what they did with Skyrim, where they cut Creation Club from the Switch version, because 3 in New Vegas without mods is a little stinky, especially New Vegas. New Vegas like needs mods to be the epic masterpiece that it is.
It's a fan remake of New Vegas being worked on.
Yep,
in like
in the
Fallout
4
4
engine.
Looks really promising.
Yeah, it does. And then yeah, there was like a Warner Brothers couple of releases. That's probably got to be Batman something or other.
Yeah, I think one of them. Well, there was two, wasn't there? One that was Switch only, and one that was multi-plat
Yep.
for Warner Brothers. I think what I think those are is I think the multi-plat one is probably a Batman game, like the rumored Batman game or whatever. And the other one is that Mortal Kombat thing that I think was announced this week. Wasn't there like Mortal Kombat 11 Aftermath for Switch as a physical?
Yeah, but that already has product pages.
Did that already have a product page for
Yeah,
the
it
Switch
did.
version?
Yeah. It got listed along with everything else.
Okay.
There's 2 multi-plat from Ubisoft, which I think is going to be that god awful Zelda clone and that god awful roller skating game. Because I have no faith in Ubisoft at this point.
Something.
Yeah.
Actually, I don't think that looks bad, to be honest with you. I haven't seen enough of it to know one way or
Yeah,
another.
I need to play it first before I make a decision.
I
It just
definitely
looks
don't
so
think
whatever.
I definitely don't think it classifies as god awful. I think it classifies as I'd say whatever, but
Yeah.
I'll have to see more.
There's 2 games from Take-Two that are multi-plat. I assume one of them is Mafia 2, because that has not gotten a physical release for the remaster. And it was rated, and then they have a second one from Take-Two. That might be a GTA trilogy, because that was also rated for Switch back in like November. And then there's one game from Konami that's PC and Switch only.
That's an interesting one.
Yeah, I have no guesses on that, because
Maybe they're trying to.
Super Bomberman R2.
Maybe they're bringing over the Symphony of the Night Rondo of Blood thing, but it's not the PSP version this time.
I mean, that would be interesting, but I'm not sure. Maybe they're finally bringing Hyper Sports R back.
Maybe a Metal Gear
that never got
collection,
released.
because Metal Gear hasn't had a collection on PC or Switch, but has on other platforms.
God, I
It's true.
want that, but I have no faith in that happening.
It doesn't have one on PS4 though. It would definitely have one on PS4 and
Oh,
Xbox One.
I thought it did have one on PS4.
No,
Not bad.
PS3.
I hope it's Rogue
360.
Core 2.
Already, the first one did so well.
And then there's one from Koch Media. That's Switch and Xbox One, which is also really
PlayStation.
weird. Yeah.
Oddly enough, it's Pepsi Man Challenge, so that's
hell yeah.
you wouldn't think so, but
I mean, is there a game? It feels like if it's not on PlayStation, it must be a game that's already on PlayStation.
Yeah.
It's not on Xbox or
I can't
Switch.
think of any like Koch Media stuff that actually
a Goemon collection would be awesome. But
that's
if they
already
did
on
if
PS4. But
if
it's
they did
also
a collection
I
they
mean,
did Contra and they did Castlevania, because Cody said, "How about a Goemon collection?" That would definitely also be coming on other platforms. It wouldn't just be Switch and PC.
But again, we're also falling into the trap that we're just like expecting all these games to just be ports, because Pavlov was right. But but it's like that's really all I can assume from a lot of these right now. Like
It's going to be a game called Metroidvania. That is a Castlevania Metroid crossover. It'll blow
my
your
God.
mind.
oh no, jeez.
I don't know what.
It's actually, I don't know, man. It's their version of a football manager game, like how Sega has. It can be like the most boring shit. We have no idea what any of this is. Not that that's a boring game. If you like Football Manager, that's fine. guess.
I just feel like it's unlikely to be a new game if it's not on PS4 as well.
Yeah,
I
If it's just-
agree.
if it's just coming to Switch, then it could totally be a new game. And the Konami one might very well be coming if it's Switch and PC. That's
I mean,
probably
there's-
more likely to be a new game than not.
there's also 2 Square
That's-
Enix listings, which I totally believe to be new games. Because
Very Enix ones are probably. What were they
Because
listed
unless they're-
for? What systems?
unless they're porting Hitman or Kane and Lynch 2, I don't know, whatever, you know.
I mean, they don't own Hitman anymore.
Oh yeah, they
so-
don't own Hitman anymore. Oh
Yeah,
my god,
but
what if one of the
won't be
Warner
that.
Brothers games is Hitman? What if it's not Batman, it's Hitman? Holy shit.
Warner Brothers own. I don't think Warner Brothers owned Hitman either.
They do. They do now.
They
do
do
now.
now, do they? Okay.
Oh hell yeah. It's not gonna be Hitman, but
Oh man, it's probably just another Chrono Trigger port. Once again, not like a remake.
I mean, that would be
like
good.
a port.
It was.
Yeah. Actually, if there's something for Switch, it could be like Final Fantasy Collection.
well,
I was
no,
thinking
what
they
if it,
Final Fantasy 1 through 6.
what
They
if
did the
it's
Dragon Quest collection 1 through 3. So what if both of them are Final Fantasy 1 through 3 and Final
What
Fantasy
if
4
it-
through 6, but just the
Yes,
mobile phone
for the
ports?
Parts, yes.
what if
What's
it's
gonna happen?
what if it's the Secret of Mana remake?
Oh, and it
Wait.
could be.
By the way, Colin, I guess one of these days we do need to talk about Trials of Mana because I feel like that was a step in the right direction.
Yes.
What platforms are the Square Enix games for?
For Switch only.
Yeah.
Which only? Okay, quiet man. It's time.
I mean, I assume one of those Square Enix games is the Octopath follow-up.
That's
Yeah.
that's possible. Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that's like a very reasonable assumption. and
Would they
then-
be doing that if they're doing Bravely Default 2? Because it's the same
Absolutely.
studio.
Absolutely, they already said
Okay.
they were working on a follow-up.
Oh, yeah, but would they announce it before Bravely Default 2? Would they not just wait till
I don't
after
know.
that and then reveal it? I don't know. I feel like it could be. You're right, but I feel like they'll announce it after Bravely Default 2 is.
Yeah, they could announce
Um,
Tomb Raider 2013. Oh,
Yeah, Tomb Raider collection could certainly be something.
I don't a collection. That's pie in the sky, my man.
but they
Actually, no,
can-
because Shadow of the Tomb Raider was on.
was multiplat.
it was
Yeah,
on
it's multi-plat
360.
and on Xbox 360. Yeah,
Yeah. So
And-
all
and
three of them are. So
my
Rise,
girlfriend-
Shadow, and
My
regular.
girlfriend is
oh
literally
no.
playing.
Oh god.
Sorry, continue. I was gonna say
no.
literally
I meant
playing, the new
Shadow. Rise
Shadow
is
right now.
yeah. Shadow isn't cross-gen, but Rise. Is.
Oh yeah,
That's the
right.
one I
Came out
meant.
2018, didn't it? Shadow of the
Yeah,
Tomb Raider.
the Xbox 360 version of Rise of the Tomb Raider, I hear, is actually pretty good.
Well, what if that's what that is? What if that's what both of them are? The first game is the first 2 Tomb Raider games and one thing, and the second game from Square is just the third one on its own, Shadow of Tomb
Oh
Raider.
man, and then everyone will
Switch.
be like, Laura
That'd be-
Croft is confirmed for Smash. Oh my god, Laura Croft is gonna be in. Guys, don't you know what this means?
That would be pretty cool and also incredibly disappointing at the same time because those Tomb Raider games.
I like them.
They're good. They just like
There's
after
diminishing
after
returns
you
on each one.
yeah, like it's like
Yeah.
oh, it's just yeah, it's like oh, there's more of it.
Yeah, I don't feel like playing-
I would actually bull out with a port of Rise of the Tomb Raider. I like that game a lot. 'Cause DLC is cool as shit. It has like the Cold War zombies mode. That's neato. I love
Rise
that.
is the best one by like a huge margin. In my
Yeah,
opinion.
really.
Only played the first one of those remakes.
Rise
I
is
didn't
better.
play the others.
Shadow of the Tomb Raider is developed by Eidos Montreal and not Crystal Dynamics, because they were making the Avengers game.
What if they?
The-
What if it's the leaked Dead Island 2 2015 build? I mean, they do own Techland.
Okay, guys. One
Is-
of my sources just chimed in. I didn't want to tell you guys this, but there is some buzz that it's going to be a Geno-centric Super Mario RPG spin-off. It's going to be a hybrid action RPG plus third-person shooter. Really revolutionary stuff.
It's gonna be it's gonna be
Cerberus.
it's gonna be a Federation Force style co-op RPG shooter where you play as the Geno Squad.
That actually sounds kind of cool.
Everyone's picked up in giant Geno statues.
Yes, because you actually have your star body and you enter the different dolls, and you can upgrade your doll body. So you heard it here first, folks, when that gets announced.
Well, anyway.
I think it's going to be a Final Fantasy collection for one of them. I have this feeling now.
But for what? They've already. Oh well.
For the ones that actually came out on Nintendo systems.
But it's like
there's not any Nintendo Final Fantasies on the fucking Nintendo Switch.
But
man.
I also don't. Well, I mean, they released 7 onward, but I'm just saying, like,
but not
not the
1 through 6.
No, but I don't have faith in them to release a physical of like the phone ports.
They did it for Dragon Quest 1 through 3.
They did it for Dragon Quest 1 through 3.
But
phone ports.
only in Japan, not in Europe and the US.
Right, but Final Fantasy is bigger in Europe and the West. So if they were doing it in Japan, they would bring that one over automatically.
Colin, we were talking about this before, but Amazon also sells digital codes.
That is true. That is true.
Yeah.
Has Chronicles come out yet?
What if it is a Gex
trilogy?
trilogy?
It comes out in August. Yeah, Decoy, I was going to say Decoy's got a Gex trilogy.
Yeah, Decoy gets it.
Russian Spyro did so well, so it's time for the next logical one.
Imagine like a Crash and trilogy style remake, and there's like high detail like shader reflections on Gex's individual scales.
Fucking the first 2 Gex games are really good, and then Gex 3, you get the Gex 3, and it's like the worst 3D platformer you might ever play.
He looks into the screen in like 4K resolution. Don't drink the water in Jerry Garcia's house.
It strikes back.
Listen, if The Quiet Man comes out on the Nintendo Switch, which it won't, I will buy it. I will stream it.
God bless Human Head Studios. They made a good Prey game, and then they made The Quiet Man.
It could be Dragon Quest. I'll say this: I would take a Dragon Quest 8 remaster in a heartbeat.
Yeah,
that'd be fun. That would be fun.
What if they're finally localizing DQ Heroes 1 and 2 after 20 years or whatever the hell? That
would be a shocker.
The one Switch launch game, like the one big Switch launch game that just never came stateside.
So the port really bad?
Yeah, it is, but I mean they've had time.
If there is some sort of new Gex thing, are we obliged to buy it and stream it and like really get behind it?
Oh,
like
absolutely.
Absolutely.
Of course. Yeah.
You have to become the figureheads of it, to be honest.
I'm looking forward to it, man.
we would break quarantine to go to the press events for
your number one source for Gex appeal.
Gex Insane Trilogy.
If there was ever a Gex revival, we will cover it 24/7.
How have we had like some random developers go, haha, what if we ironically made new Bubsy and Shaq Fu games, but no one's made a new Gex?
Like I feel like a new Gex in 2020 feels very appropriate. I think it's time.
It's very timely.
Do you think Gex would make a sicko mode reference?
I honestly think, and I like all joking aside,
it's
that
time to go gecko mode.
It's time to floss like a boss.
I feel like it's be like an appropriate time for a Gex game, because of how like ridiculous streaming has gotten and all of the different streaming shows. Like to have a game that just parodies television shows and the
Holy
kind of
shit,
deviant
dude! They
string.
could like I already picture it in my brain is like a 4K image of like a studio backlot with all of these like ruined Star Wars-esque sets, and you just hear Gex go, "No one's ever really gone." Like I can visualize that. It's the easiest fucking joke.
I think the trailer would be that the studio is nobody's working because it's on lockdown, so Gex has free reign to do what he wants.
You heard it here,
Listen,
folks.
we don't talk about Earthworm Jim because his creator's a douchebag.
There already is a new Earthworm Jim being made.
There is actually for the Amico.
For now crowdfunded in-television Amico.
I'm really excited for the television. We know this already.
Yeah, we've already.
We've covered this. I like the Amico. It looks good, and yeah, despite my
I like how we're calling it the Amigo and not the Amico. It's a better name.
The Amigo.
It's my friend, man. But now I was actually a big in television fan always, so which is a weird thing to be a fan of. Gex flicks and chill, man.
Gex flicks and chill. The other, so what were the last things on this prediction things? Then was games listed. Apparently,
that's really it.
The animation on that new Earthworm Jim looks nice.
Did we talk about the Take-Two one? One game from Take-Two.
Yeah, it's well. I think one of it's gonna be because Mafia 2 and a GTA trilogy were rated for Switch like months ago, and they haven't announced a they're both multi-plat, which a GTA trilogy being multi-plat makes perfect sense because they haven't put the new like Android and up versions of 3, Vice City, and San Andreas on PS4 and Xbox One. And for Mafia 2, they haven't announced a physical release. So
okay, those two make sense. Those ones make sense then.
Yeah. I think those line up, but you know,
easy prediction then.
Yeah.
All right, but I guess the 4 Nintendo games then. I suppose is the good one to end it on, and I feel like one of them's got to be. I feel like it's got to be, if rumors are to be believed, one's got to be the Super Mario Collection, one's got to be 3D World, one's got to be Pikmin 3. Like those ports, and then the fourth one will be just something new.
Yeah, it's gonna be Geist HD.
Geist 2,
Geist 2.
Geist re-spooked.
You know, quarantine's been getting to my brain when I actually have written up design documents for a Geist reboot. This is like this has gotten.
This is it. It's hey, I would be all for it if they can bring back Geist and make it into something like half decent.
I think conceptually, Geist isn't a bad game.
Like, conceptually,
it's a really good game.
There's a reason why I wanted to play it is because the concept is cool as shit. The concept of Geist is like the basis of the fucking joke Acid Ghost that Brian and I did, which is based on a shitty fake rumor from 2015.
The guy, Geist is.
I want to bring up that
good game that should get brought back.
Yeah. Cody when Cody said Gex, Bubsy, Earthworm Jim, Arrow the Acrobat, and Plock. I want to say Arrow the Acrobat is an underrated game. It was actually a really solid game.
I'd be up for playing Plock. That game has like amazing soundtrack.
Yeah, like all of those games are pretty good. Like Earthworm Jim, and there is a new Earthworm Jim. I do want to point that out. If anyone hasn't seen the footage for Amico, look up all the stuff for the Intellivision Amico. It's pretty good. The animation for it looks good.
Wasn't part of the rumor for Mario Collection and Papes was there's going to be a 2D side-scrolling Metroid game?
I mean, I don't think that was in the same rumor,
forever.
but yeah, Metro because it's Metroid Prime Trilogy as well is also.
I hope it's a side scroller because I would like a new game.
Yeah, no, Metroid 5, that's a side scroller. Metroid Prime Trilogy.
Schnitzel said that End Space before Geist, their claim to fame were Mary Kate and Ashley games.
Yeah, and N-Space
So
then made a bunch of, and then N-Space made a bunch of Call of Duty games for the DS. N-Space, and then now they don't exist anymore. It's a real sad day. Where's
I mean, just to address Schnitzel's thing of he doesn't have much faith in those Mario rumors since the Origami King turned out to not be a return to form. I think if you were just someone looking in at
that's
the
not a
Paper
hardcore
Mario
Mario
games,
fan.
you would probably feel like it's a return to form because it's a Paper Mario RPG that's not based around using stuff like stickers or paint or whatever, and it's just a traditional RPG battle system.
yeah.
Like, that is what the return to form is. It has nothing to do with stuff like partners or unique world or anything. It's the gameplay specific focus. If you're just someone looking in and seeing that, you'd be like, yeah, this looks more like Thousand Year Door in the original than it does Sticker Star and Color Splash.
I would really like Metroid 5 on the condition that it's not made by Mercury Steam.
I mean, I don't think that's going to be happening. It's going to be made by Mercury Steam,
Yeah.
guaranteed, because no one else is going to make one.
I like Samus Returns. I think the counter mechanic was the biggest problem in that game, to be honest.
Yeah,
Like-
that's my big problem with the game.
Yeah, it slowed down combat in a way that really didn't flow with the rest of the game.
It's the kind of thing that Mercury Steam does in all of their games, though, so I don't really trust them to not do it again.
Yeah, they might even bring it over, but I don't know. I'd be willing to play because, like I said, overall, I enjoyed my experience with the game, and I liked every other edition. The free aim was great, and that's obviously like a very logical next step for Metroid, for 2D Metroid. But that was
The free
amazing.
aim's a natural progression. I still wish there was the diagonal aiming.
Yeah, like to lock it. Yeah,
Yeah.
I agree. To run and stuff, that would be good. And I also thought that the visor stuff they added was good because it allowed you to play the game how you wanted. I don't mind options like that that'll help you out in certain situations, and none of it was game breaking really.
Mm.
I thought the last fight with Ridley was kind of
The whole final part of that game rubs me the
Yeah.
wrong way. It's not even just the fight with Ridley, all the build up towards them.
Yeah.
Well, after
Queen Metroid as well.
after you defeat the Queen Metroid, that part was because in the original game it's this nice like atmospheric like lead up, right? And then the way it was done, it kind of didn't jive with how the game
not just everything beyond from the Queen Metroid onwards, even the build up towards the Queen Metroid
Yeah.
done poorly.
I
It's
didn't like
originally you're so low down that there's basically nothing and there's no music and all this, but they just turned it into a regular gauntlet of enemies.
I didn't like either of the new bosses in Samus Returns. The robot boss was especially terrible. And I just felt like the overhaul they gave to like the planet just made it feel really like generic and not really like what I pictured SR388 to look like. It just felt kind of like
anything about SR
Super Metroid.
But I mean, when you play the original Game Boy game, you could imagine whatever the hell you wanted because everything was so samey. Like it's the same with another Metroid 2 remake, AM2R, where it's like, and I like that game a lot, by the way, but that also wasn't how I pictured the planet in any way. They went like a completely different direction with it because you could do whatever you wanted. And I agree that with Samus Returns, they could have gone for a more unique vision because once again, they could have done whatever they wanted with it.
Yeah.
But I think the visuals were actually really good, especially the backgrounds. It's a game that's meant to be played with 3D, like 100%. It's one of those games that looks so much better in 3D.
There's also like the level design was a little disappointing because like
that was limited.
Metroid 2 is like you have basically like you are like stopgapped and you have to kill all the Metroids before you can continue. But like the way that they frame it in Samus Returns feels so artificial and gamey that it really takes me out of the experience.
Oh, like killing the Metroids and putting
Yeah,
the thing. I actually like that. I like that a lot more than actually the another Metroid 2 remake. Than I thought that was nice because it gave you a reason for it instead of it just randomly happening.
I feel like the reason is bad though, because it's like it's the Metroid's home planet. Why would they have a machine that you kill Metroids and put their DNA into the machine in order to drain lava, or acid, or whatever it is?
Because the Chozo are fucking weird, man. It's not for us to question the weird bird people. Why do they have a human-sized suit that rolls into a ball that they gave to Samus? I don't know, man.
I mean, it's fair. You question a lot of things in Metroid. I don't know. I just hope that if they do make their own Metroid game, that they do a better job next time.
Yeah, that's my one hope, that if they're not remaking a game but making their own one from scratch.
Don't have Ridley in it this time.
Oh yeah, please no. Especially if it's a sequel to Fusion. Like, if you're going to include Ridley, at least establish it's not the same Ridley at all from the other games, and it's like just someone else from his race.
That's
like
if
they
stupid.
do,
Never do that. Never do that. That sounds stupid.
I don't know. I just don't want them to bring back Ridley just because. Like,
yeah,
that's why Ridley was in Metroid 2, and it made no sense, and especially after Fusion, when Ridley, by all accounts, from every story beat, he is dead now. He's dead. I don't want him suddenly brought back just
they
because
can always
it would be
they
cool.
cloned him once. They can clone him again.
Jeez,
They
yeah.
cloned him twice.
Yeah.
I mean, the X clone doesn't really count.
I feel like, especially with that last boss in Samus Returns, they kind of ruined the ending.
Yeah.
Because Metroid 2 originally had a very different ending from every other Metroid.
Yeah, you're not
game.
escaping the planet because it's going to explode. It's like this, like contemplative kind of. Yeah.
And also,
after all the violence that's happened,
they ruin the lead into Super Metroid because you're fighting Ridley, who is there to steal the baby Metroid. Samus already knows Ridley is after the baby Metroid. Why the fuck would she leave it with some defenseless scientists?
It's fucking awful. There's so much about that makes sense, and stuff like one thing that was definitely cool in the concept stage is like, oh yeah, let's include Ridley and let's make his suit sort of based on the Prime form, so it's like, you know, he's slightly regenerated but not fully there like he is in Super Metroid. Then fucking Samus kicks the shit out of him, and he somehow heals faster from that. Doesn't make any sense. He should be worse off.
I appreciate the attempt to try to work the Prime games back into canon, but this was not the way to do it.
Oh, and that's a concept that probably shouldn't have been done, because having the Prime games in canon really does mess a lot of shit up.
Yeah.
I have strong words.
You know what
Metroid
they could have easily. I know they wanted to add a new boss fight, and actually from a gameplay perspective, it's probably my favorite Ridley fight, to be honest with you. Like, it plays really well. That's a good Ridley fight. It's just, it makes no sense, and it breaks a lot of the lore. You could have just had Ridley in the ending sequence as part of the ending, like following Samus's ship, and like, oh shit,
that would have been
Ridley.
much better. Much better.
Yeah, and that would have been an actual segue into Super Metroid.
Yeah, and you're like, oh look,
giant hole.
You're like, he's kind of better Ridley, but not. Oh my god, he's healing. By the time he gets there, he'll be fine.
That's why I'm slightly fearful of doing Metroid Dread or whatever, because like I feel like Fusion and Other M tried to set up a lot of stuff for what Metroid 5 would be, and this is just going to completely ignore all of that setup and do something just completely different that could potentially retcon a whole bunch of shit again. That was just, it makes those last two games a big waste.
In Samus Returns, they introduce a rogue Chozo in
the
the
traitor.
lore that is absolutely going to be followed up on if Mercury Steam is involved in another Metroid game.
Yeah, I feel like that is what they're setting up, but I think my fears are more stuff like how Samus gets a new ship in Metroid Fusion, and then if that ship just gets completely removed, basically, to give Samus her sort of generic orange ship, I'm going to be very, very mad.
Yeah.
Because it's the little things like that where they were trying to progress the story along that didn't fit the necessary status quo. That I could easily see Mercury Steam just deciding, let's not bother with this anymore.
Yeah.
That
Well, I
I
mean,
don't know, I have
originally,
fears.
but here's the thing: originally, they wanted to remake Fusion.
True.
That was
Very
their-
true. They
that
did
was their
want to
initial
remake
pitch.
Fusion, yeah.
So I think they would respect things from Fusion because that's the game they wanted to remake. That's obviously the game they like.
Yeah, that's true, and I mean that's a good sign that maybe I'm fine with them including the Kozo traitor and not including any of the stuff like the cloning and the AI setup that they were doing in between Other M and Fusion, as long as they don't actively do stuff that cons shit from Fusion and Other M.
I think that eventually, I think eventually Ridley will have to make his way back to Metroid, but I would like for there to be a good story reason and B, a break of a couple games to make it mean something.
Like I said, I'm fine with a Ridley returning if it's not like the same Ridley.
I just think that then you're making it like he just comes from this big villainous, like he's always been like this unique entity. And then you're saying that, well, then there's more of them, and they're all just as evil and sadistic as.
I mean, they're all space. They're all just space pirates, so they're all blooming evil.
But are
anyway.
they?
I mean, it doesn't have to. It doesn't have to look exactly like. It doesn't have to look exactly like Ridley. But I'd rather have a new space pirate be the new leader of them, and not just bring Ridley back for the sake of it.
I would
Ridley
like to.
dies in Super Metroid.
Spoilers!
Yeah, he does.
Dead for good.
Yeah, he
And
dies
they
in
clone
Super
him
Metroid, and then
in
they
Other M.
clone him in Other M, and then his clone body, and then he dies in Other M, and then his clone body gets taken over by the X in Fusion,
Yeah.
and then Samus completely obliterates it.
Yeah, it's not even Ridley anymore, so there's no real sense in bringing him back. Unless they have some fucking crazy sequence where you're fighting 20 Ridleys.
Like, yeah.
Silex takes his helmet off. It's Ridley.
And then he just screeches as loud as he possibly can into the
The space pirates, it is ambiguous if they are a race or an organization.
I think they're an organization because they seem to change appearance like every other game.
they're probably an organization considering they're rulers of fucking giant brain.
I don't think that is technically their ruler anymore. As far as Metroid canon.
Well, yeah,
I don't think she was ever really their ruler.
No, like she was
just
never
a computer they took over to.
Like I think Ridley was always their leader. Then Mother Brain teamed up with Ridley to all of the Chozo, because I think in the current Metroid canon, Mother Brain is like the supercomputer for the Kozo planet. And then has a very strong disagreement with them about how to handle the Metroids, and so teams up with the space pirates to get rid of them.
But what if they bring Mother Brain back as the primary antagonist in the next one, and she recruits King Hippo and the Eggplant?
She
did for it.
She did
listen,
leader of the pirates.
I wanted to make a Captain N reference. I decided I just wouldn't. But I fucking knew you would.
Speaking of which, I just rewatched Little Shop of Horrors.
Hell yeah!
So good, man. It's one of those perfect movies. And why do they have to remake it? It's like every song. It's a musical where it's funny, the acting's good, and every song lands. There's not one bad song in that.
No, yeah, it's a there's a reason why. It's no masterpiece, but it's my favorite film ever because it's just like
it's perfect. It's perfect.
It's the most well-rounded, perfect movie ever. Yeah,
yeah, it's so good.
My only complaint is with the endings, but that's I don't have time for that.
I could get into it and why I think the theatrical ending works for this version of the movie, because they
Yeah.
make Rick Moranis as Seymour a much more sympathetic character.
Yeah. Well,
he's-
also because the director's cut ending is not edited the way that it was going
It's
to
so
be.
long. It's so long.
All right, side tangent. Okay, so that ending is
Well,
actually
like, hold-
supposed to be that ending is supposed to be 2 minutes long. But the thing is that the version they released on DVD in like the 90s was like 8 minutes long. So that's what everyone's perception of what the original ending is supposed to be. It's not supposed to be that long, but they kept it that long in the director's cut, and that's annoying.
I think it's interesting. We'll get off. I know
It's
we,
so
we,
long.
we need to
I'm
wrap
gonna
up.
say,
We
guys,
need
it's
to
been like-
wrap up.
It's been
But-
like 2 hours, 40 minutes.
Yeah,
I
we
think
gotta
should
go.
stop
We gotta fucking.
I just want to say it's interesting that I think that it still plays today, even though at the end of the day, people are like, "Oh, Seymour, was he really? He's just a nice guy incel that's pining over this girl and, feeds her boyfriend to a plant." But it works because he's still like he's very genuine.
Because
I
he's Rick
think-
Moranis. That's
Exactly,
why.
it works because that's why it works, and you get this feeling because of the way he plays the character that it's never because he thinks he deserves Audrey. It's because
Yeah.
he sincerely cares about what's happening to her.
He's so
And the fact that
goddamn blind. Yeah.
Exactly, and the fact that he ends up with her, it's not because he was working towards that. It's he always felt like he loved her, but he never felt like he would get with her. That's
Yeah.
I feel like why it works. I'm sorry, we should start a podcast just on anything else.
Yeah.
Anything that's not video games, man. I love video games. Never
Fuck
mind
video games. Man, awful.
We have 40 people watching and only 16 likes. Why? Give us a
Like
thumbs
it.
up.
Everybody give us the thumb.
Like
Give us
the
some
video.
likes. Get rid of
And
the
I
dislike.
think that is our segue to closing the show. I would just like to thank everyone for joining us today. Thank you to Spazzy, to Matt, not Nintendex. Fuck you, Nan. And and no, we love you. And kisses. But we're gonna do things a little differently. I haven't added links to the description. I will after this is over. But we will be omitting the donation link and the Patreon link for this episode because we think that you should put your money towards any fund that you think currently deserves it, given the past week or so of current events.
And there's a lot.
Yep, there's plenty to choose
There's
from.
plenty of
Just choose
choices.
one that's super local to you, and just anything, or even that even that like that big itch.io.
Oh yeah, the big
big
itch.io
bundle that's like you get
746 games.
750 games for as low as $5. It's a great deal. So yeah, from all of us at Source Gaming, kisses, love you,
Yes.
and
Apologies
Bye.
to the fictional character of Earthworm Jim. Just because I don't agree with the political beliefs of your creator doesn't mean you, as a fictional character, should suffer. The entire teams make games. All right,
but
guys?
Bioshock Infinite is still bad. So
Hey,
bye.
Bye, guys.
bye.